25 for 2. Southey's on his way and bowls, and Burns launches into a drive, waits slightly back, but he's got away with it and gets 4 through the covers. Timed it very nicely. Just gave the impression of leaning back a little as he played that drive. But a boundary it is, and at the moment they're going to need everything that's coming their way. 29 for 2. Oh, well, I had a love it. Tough as you're back.
Yes.
I was just enjoying Kumar's company.
Oh, well, there you go.
You're sitting in his chair.
Oh, okay. All right then. Okay. Well,
he's a
El Presidente.
delightful man, is he? He's a beautiful speaker.
I'm going to throw my hat into the ring.
Are you? He's president. You remember?
Why not? Why not?
You remember?
Oh no, you've got to be a member.
Well, it's a start.
Yeah.
Then comes Southey, bowls, and another drive from Burns. This time it runs up to mid-off, and there's no run.
Well, England could take a leaf out of his book.
Oh, yes.
I mean, what a player he was, and a great sort of judger of a situation, and got stuck in. Wouldn't have been having a hack outside off stump too early on in his innings. You had to bowl him out.
Absolutely. 39 he was still playing at.
Yeah, great
So
player.
finally finished, yeah.
Well, he's up. He's got to be up there in the top boys.
Yeah, definitely. Sun trying to come out. The cloud still lingering, but there's 3 slips a gully. Sibley and Crawley both dismissed. And Rory Burns is on 19, waiting for Southey from the pavilion end, who bowls a short ball to him. Don't see him do that very often, just to remind Burns that he can get it up round about his chest. Swayed out of the way, allowed that to go through to Watling.
Bowled beautifully, haven't they? New Zealand got the ball swinging, haven't they? Both ways. And really, right on the money.
He's a big fella, Jameson.
Oh, he is a big fella. But skillful. He's not just a sort of tear away quick.
No.
I mean, what does he bowl? 85.
Yeah, he's got that in swinger as well to go with the
absolutely.
outswinger.
Yeah, bowls that beautiful length. When you're a tall man, you're trying to get forward, aren't you? You just can't sort of throw yourself forward at it.
Southey over the wicket, bowls, and that kept very low. That was a dribbler outside the off stump and quite close, but that's not something that England will want to see. And Burns is immediately tapping at the area that one landed on, because it kept very, very low. And there aren't many, there aren't probably any pitches in the world where the ball does that get better.
No, and that's from a good line as well.
Yeah,
I mean that's pretty straight to be scuffing along the deck.
That really was a nasty one. As a result of that, this is quite wise from Southey. He's going to go round the wicket and see if he can get that area to suddenly become straight.
Yes. Yeah, clever thinking.
It is.
And that will play in Burns' mind, because he'll know that as well.
Exactly. Yes, I like this. 3 slips a gully, point mid-off, mid-on. 2 men out on the leg side. And Southey's coming round the wicket. So a diaphanous screen down there, moved slightly across.
What were you talking about? I missed it, sorry. Great man, isn't he? Lovely fella.
Yes. Well, there's so much to talk to him about.
Yeah.
We eat at the restaurant. He and Mahela Jaya Wagner own a restaurant in Colombo.
Oh.
And comes Southey and bowls, flicked away into the leg side. They want 2 here. There are 2 men down there, and Jameson picks the ball up. Huge man, gathers and hurls the ball into Watling. And 2 runs it is. 31. Yes, it is. It's not all crab.
Oh, but a lot of it.
A lot of crab.
Well, I like crab.
Crab done lots of different ways.
Yeah, lovely.
But it's quite messy.
Yeah.
And they offer you all sorts of sort of implements for
scooping it all
dealing
out.
with,
Yeah. And a bib.
Not quite a hacksaw, but you get quite a lot of tools to try and do it. And it's really bright and colourful. The interior is all orange.
Yeah.
Very bright.
Lovely.
Yeah. So, now we have the man of the mullet.
Yeah.
Mr. de Grandon. You see, I think part of this is psychological warfare with Rory Burns.
I've got a better mullet than
Mine's
you.
bigger than yours. And mine is bushier than yours. Don't you think?
Well, he has done him.
It could be. It's a message.
Yeah. Show us your mullet.
Yeah. Well, Rory's is tucked away into his helmet at the moment, but Grandon couldn't possibly tuck his anywhere. Flowing behind him is on his way, and then actually, whether it was the mullet that put Root off or not, I'm not sure, but he's pulled away.
I'm surprised he gets a go before Wagner.
Yes.
Right, Wagner's he came out and played well, didn't he, Wagner?
I suppose they want Wagner from the other end, don't they?
Perhaps.
This slope.
Yeah. Batted nicely though, Wagner.
Certainly did.
Cool.
2 slips a gully and a man on the drive then as de Grandhomme shuffles in and bowls outside the off stump. I thought it kept rather low, but it did swing away. Root had a look at it and decided I'm not going to play at that.
Well, you're talking about the ball going underground a bit and not bouncing. With this heat, which is on the cards for the next couple of 3 days, it's only going to get, the cracks are only going to open more, aren't they?
Yeah. Not a long run, de Grandhomme. He shuffles up and bowls again outside the off stump. And Root allows that to go through. That carried through nicely to the keeper. So again, we are seeing this up and down of indifferent bounce that does make batting tricky. You expect the ball to bounce a certain height from a certain area, and if it doesn't do that, then clearly it's very unsettling. 31 for 2. Root's over his bat. De Grandhomme, mullet flowing behind him, sets off again, bowls very wide of the off stump, and Root allows that to go by. 31 for 2. Burns 21, Root 7. Earlier Sibley out for a duck, and Crawley for 2 after New Zealand were bowled out for 378. There, Tuffers.
Got a wonderful cake.
Oh, is this our first official cake of the season?
Yes, it is.
Oh, fantastic.
And it's a little
Here's
bit of
the
something.
Grandhomme bowling outside the off stump, and there's no stroke.
It's a little bit of something to do with me. It's
Tough as tipple.
Yes, that's right. Tough as tipple.
It looks like a bottle of port.
Well, no, it's wine.
Oh, it's wine.
Yes. Yeah.
But that's a cake.
Yes, it is. But I've got a...
There's definitely no alcohol in that, Tuffers.
No. But it's...
De Grandhomme bowls, that's a nice ball, swinging away from Root. He plays it from the crease. Picked up at second slip.
I brought out a range of wines, John.
God, everyone's doing that. Everyone's doing it.
Tough as tipple. Lovely. It's a beautiful cake. Look at that. Wow.
There's a very chipper photograph of you on the front there.
Yes, that's me once I bowled the Aussies out, jumping up and doing the old pepper grinder.
Oh. De Grandhomme completes the over, bowling outside the off stump. Root playing no shot. I mean, don't get me wrong, but I did have you down as a bit more of a lager man, if I'm honest.
Well, we've got a lager. We've got Yes, we've got a beer as well.
Oh.
Great to meet you on the photo shoot. Here's the cake. I hope you enjoy. Peter, who was
Right.
a friend of ours who we're in business with. Yes, so look, keep your eyes out for that. It's a lovely drop. Enjoy
But not that. I'm just worried that you're going to go off. That is definitely a cake, isn't it?
Yes, it is indeed.
All right, well, that's okay.
Yeah.
31 for 2. Burns on 21. Root has 7. Lord's bathed in sunshine at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got a very nice Shiraz. What do you like? What's your favourite one? We've got a very nice Tempranillo.
Do you?
Yeah. From Spain, and a couple of Sauvignon Blancs and an English wine as well.
Oh,
yes,
right,
which is winning awards.
In comes Southey over the wicket and bowls on the leg stump. There's a run here for Burns, flicking it away down to Jameson at fine leg. And 1 run is taken, 32 for 2. Burns moves on to 22. And Root down on strike. Jameson runs across Lords. He covers the ground with about 5 steps. Huge strides to go from fine leg to fine leg. But, he's there now. Number 12 on his back. He took the wicket of Sibley, the first straight ball that he bowled, actually, his 7th ball of his spell.
What, you got Sibley? You think that was a straight ball?
Well, I meant one that it was late at the stumps.
Well, yes, but I mean, it swung late.
Yeah. But one that he had to play at.
Oh, yes. But it was a good delivery.
It was. But
Yeah.
the first over was... He didn't,
No.
It was all wide of the stumps. Then comes Southey then and bowls wide of the off stump. That moved away a little bit. The route has nothing to do with it. But then, yes, that was a cracking delivery. Straight,
Corker.
swung, nipped away at good pace.
Unlike the one that Crawley got.
Yeah, that was a poor shot.
Yeah, which was wide and swinging away.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll be disappointed with that.
Yeah. He's out for 2. 32 for 2. Root on 7. Pressure on England here. A lot of play left today. Go through to 6:30 again, I would think. Southey bowls. Played comfortably by Root off the front foot this time. Picked up at the covers. And there's no run. You can smell that cake.
It's gorgeous. Beautiful. Beautifully made. I mean, it's like in a box and everything, isn't it? With all the sawdust. I think they're almonds, the sawdust.
Well, there are some very clever people around, that's for sure. 32 for 2. And Southey walks slowly back to his mark. Pavilion behind him, that's in shadow now. Southey on his way. Bowls to Root, 2 wide. And Root can ignore that. Collected by Watling in front of Taylor in his usual position at first slip.
Well, Aggers, England have got to stop this run, haven't they, of being 25 for 2, haven't they?
They have.
You know, if you're going to be trying to move forward as a team and as a unit or something, you can't keep exposing Joe Root. This is a world-class player. He's going to dig you out a hole more times than not, but you can't keep expecting it to happen, can you?
All right. Is that Sibley's 6th consecutive single-figure score?
Is it?
Yes, and he's only the second opener to have that sequence for England.
Yeah.
Wow.
Up comes the next one, Southey. It's clipped away to mid-on. It worried me. I mean, it was a good ball. But if you analyse it and see how much bat there was actually pointing at the ball when it went past him, it was about half an inch.
The leading edge.
I mean, you're not going to hit the ball with that.
Yeah.
Again, it's coming across, wasn't it? And I say it was a good ball, and it did open him up. But being chest on as a batsman is not a good place to be.
And what did they always say? You know, show them the maker's name, full face of the bat. I mean,
shoulder, arm, everything going towards the ball, but it was well away into the leg side again. Root forward, drives, but with no real power. That's fielded at mid-on. Tidy over from Southey, comes to an end. It's 32 for 2.
And we have discussed this on Tuffers and Vaughan as well. Is about, you know, there is a little bit of a fad of these, you know, batsmen now almost being taught to start on off stump. You know, when I was growing up, it was always sort of like middle and leg or leg stump, and then you have your trigger movement to get yourself sort of like going that way. But now the guys are almost sort of like starting off on off stump in their guard, and so anything that's straight, you're almost having to play across your front pad. And also, it doesn't mean that you can access the offside for scoring shots as well, because you're almost leaving balls that are on 4th or 5th stump.
Yes, I don't really get the logic of that.
No, but a lot of them are doing it. A lot of them are doing it now at the moment. I think they're trying to sort of like nullify nicking off into the slips, but it'd be interesting to see the stats actually. How many more people are now getting LBW than caught in the slips? Whether it's sort of like, you know, pro rata is working. I don't think it is.
I think you're too much over coaching sometimes.
Too much over to the offside.
Too much thought.
Yeah.
Here's de Grandon bowling, and it swings into Burns, who flicks that away out into the leg side. Finds Wagner coming in off that boundary down at long leg. Might see him in action soon. 33 for 2. He'll probably start in orthodox mode. He'll start in...
Who's that?
Wagner. He'll start in sort of pitching it up and normal.
Yeah.
He's normally quite expensive in that mode. He sort of, you know, pitches the ball up and then suddenly sort of red mist comes down and he goes into the bouncer mode, the old Gordon Parsons mode.
Yes.
And lots of bouncers. Here's the Grandon, open Root up a little bit, and he knows it, and he's slapping his bat on the ground and then plays the shot again with a much straighter bat.
Was it Ted Dexter, I think, or was it David Tom Graveney or something? Batting is playing the ball alongside you. You know what I mean? You wait for the ball to come alongside you. It's a side-on game. You know, you knock the ball like that instead of sort of like getting your whole body behind it and having to come round and playing it in front of you.
If you're playing across your pad, you're
in trouble.
You are in big trouble, aren't you? Here's the Grandon. Now that lifted, and that's hit Root from nowhere on that right glove, and he got hit on the hand during the warm-ups, and he's taking that glove off really rather gingerly. It's as if he didn't really want to look and see what's going to be revealed, but he's having a look. Oh, that just climbed from nowhere.
Yeah.
Where's that come from? We've seen the ball bouncing twice, and this has hurt him. This has hurt him.
Oh dear.
He got a blow in practice.
You wouldn't have thought that the Gronholm would have had the pace to do any damage. Oh, but I don't like that look when the hand starts shuddering a bit. You know, that shudder comes on your hand.
Physio's coming out.
Oh, this won't be good for England. You don't want to break.
Got some Neil Wagner short ball.
Go on. We're waiting for this.
Let's have it.
Physio to come out. Since May 2016, so essentially the last 5 years of Test cricket, Wagner has taken 78 wickets with short pitch balls. That's defined on the Cricket List database as balls pitching more than 9 metres away from the batsman's stumps. That's out of his 133 wickets. The next most wickets with short balls is Pat Cummins, 55 of his 157 wickets. So Cummins taking about a third of his wickets with short pitch balls, and after that you've got to go down to Rabada with 37. So Wagner's taken more than twice as many wickets with short balls as the person third on that list. With those balls, Wagner's averaging 19 when he pitches it short. All other pace bowlers combined over the same period averaged 33 with their bouncers. So his bouncers are unusually effective as well as unusually numerous.
Well, it's not bouncers though, is it really, John? It's not really bouncers. You know, the bouncer is usually like a Cummins or someone, or a Barder is the surprise delivery. His isn't a surprise, you know it's coming, but it's the accuracy.
Really skillful short pitch bowling.
It is, and it's right in the armpit and the chest area instead of just sort of like whizzing past.
Not too high.
Yeah, and you get yourself in a kind of, and you set the leg trap, and you know, do I take it on? Do I not take it on? And then you get yourself in a bit of an awkward position. Yeah, it's skillful bowling, so it's not just sort of running up and aimlessly slinging it around your head.
Well, meanwhile in the middle, the physio has had a look at Joe Root. He's going to carry on.
Well, that's good news.
And that was a really nasty blow, but they went through all the business there of sort of feeling the fingers and so on. Yeah, well, it didn't go yow too much, I don't think, but it's clear that it came from... No, actually, that's nice. Kane Williamson saying, you're right there, and they're both looking at the pitch. And now Root is tapping at that area very suspiciously. And this is the challenge for a batsman now. Next ball. That's what so impressed me about Devon Conway when he was hit by Mark Wood. This is where the really top batsman just put that ball away. You forget about it, and you face the next ball as if nothing had happened. Here's Root. And de Grandon bowls to him. It's very full, and he's forward, driving out to mid-off. And let's have a look at what he does with that hand now. Well, he's still... He's undoing his glove, and it's niggling him.
That was quite a good delivery, because it was the Yorker, and you have to then jam it down.
It was a very cunning ball. That would have hit the bottom of the bat. That would have jarred.
Yes.
Here he bowls again. Oh my word! Well, that's gone down the hill
like a leggy.
A long way. It was too wide for Root to play at, but it's just gone. Well, it was taken to first slips right by Watling. It's just gone like a leg spinner down. It's an incredible ball.
Yeah.
That would have to have pitched, well, almost like Shane Warne to Mike Gatting outside the leg stump to hit the stumps. Yeah. De Grandon again, mullet flowing, bowls very full, driven down to mid-on, where Jameson fields. It's the end of the over, and well, all eyes on Root. He's got through that over, but he's definitely in some discomfort. 33 for 2, Burns 23, Root has 7. More thoughts from Tuffers, and then Dan Norcross will come in here.
Yeah, it's obviously paining Joe Root, because every time he's hitting the ball with the bat, the bottom hand is coming off, and he's sort of wringing it. So that's going to be awkward for him. You don't want Joe Root breaking a finger at the start of the summer, because he is the one batsman that is holding this England batting line-up together. But he's obviously in some pain out there, Dan.
Yes, and de Grandhomme, you might not have thought that he would be the most likely source of that discomfort. Sartorially, yes, but certainly not the way he would be bowling. But he's getting the ball to nibble around. He's caused England all sorts of troubles in the World Cup final, if you recall. Start of a new over. Tim Southey into Rory Burns. He turns him round a touch. He gets a thick leading edge, and the ball squirts out to mid-off, where the distinctive de Grandon with his white sun hat and flowing locks fields. I want to mention an extraordinary feat, and since I've got Andy Zaltzman here, I'm hoping that he'll be able to look up a couple of things for me.
Go on.
Because cousin of mine, it's a long story. I'm going to make it brief.
I'll settle back.
Or brief. I believe The source of this story came originally as Southey is in, right arm over the wicket, left-handed Burns who pulls. That sounded lovely. It's run away through mid-wicket. It won't make it to the boundary. There's a fielder out there. And in fact, he only gets 1 run for that shot. It was a lovely shot, but it will only be 1. And the score moves to 34 for 2, Burns to 24. So this comes from the former MCC treasurer, I believe, Ray Casey, and it is about his friend, Gordon Rosser, who celebrated his 90th birthday in May. I believe they're listening in. And it concerns a match in 1974 between Ashurst Cricket Club and Edenbridge Cricket Club. And Gordon Rosser, in that match, took a hat-trick with the first 3 balls of the match.
Ooh, good start.
I mean, he's broken a lot of hearts there, hasn't he? Southey in to the right-handed route, who drives, not firmly, and Southey's able to field off his own bowling. And the question is, how rare is this extraordinary feat? Now, Andrew Sampson informed me that Chaminda Vas did it against Bangladesh in the 2003 World Cup.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ravindra Pushpakumara, I believe, is the only man to have done it in the first-class match. And Joe Leach of Worcestershire did it in a Royal London Cup game in 2015, but a hat-trick with the first 3 balls. So, presumably numbers 1, 3 and 4.
Yes.
Turn up for the game. Southey in. That's driven nicely by Root. Not perfectly timed, but in front of square on the offside. He'll get a couple of runs. It went along the ground. Root to 9, 36 for 2. So you rock up for the game.
You paid your subs.
And I don't know, let's say the game starts at 1 o'clock. By 1:05, there are 3 members of this team who've got literally nothing else to do but stand at slip and grumble later on in the afternoon.
It's not an ideal Saturday or Sunday.
Possibly not for very long, I suppose, because they might not have been defending a particularly high target. But so Gordon Ross's hat-trick, a golden hat-trick, we believe, is the name of it. And I was just going to ask people out there, if you've been involved in a match in which a golden hat-trick has been taken, I can't remember being involved in a game like that.
Can't be too many, surely.
Surely not. Southey in to Root. Right arm over. 3 slips in down the leg side, taken by a tumbling Watling. And there's no run. Just lost his line a little bit there, Southey. I mean, it's an extraordinary feat. And the flip side of destroying 3 people's days is, I suppose, the rest of the game for Gordon would have felt like a bit of an anticlimax, you know.
Well, now, that's interesting. Now, is it...
Number 5, by the way, would have been hastily looking for pads, I'm guessing.
Now, is that sort of harder to do than a normal hat-trick? Or is the probability exactly the same?
Oh, that's a very good question. Right. Southey in, and it's defended from the crease rather suspiciously by Root, and the ball just rolls out about 10 yards away from him on the onside. There's no run into the over. 36 for 2, Burns 24, Root 9.
It's a bit like the lottery numbers. I have given this a little bit of thought.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yes,
exactly the same chance as any other.
Yes. Now, is that hat-trick got exactly the same chance as anything, Andy? It's poised.
Well, I mean, you were a victim in a hat-trick, weren't you? Were you part of Shane Warne's hat-trick in the Test match?
I certainly wasn't.
Oh, sorry.
You're mixing up with Ed Giddins or Alan Mullally.
No, Devon Malcolm, Darren Gough, and...
Angus Fraser?
No, and Philip de Freitas, I think it was.
Yeah. I guess the advantage of 1, 2, 1, 3 and 4 is they're all fresh at the crease, aren't they? You've got 3 fresh batsmen rather than having to dismiss a set batsman. Against that... They're the better batsmen. But against that, in club-stroke village cricket, just had a heavy lunch.
Yeah, the new ball's harder to control. De Grandhomme starts a new over, bowls a Yorker-length delivery, dug out by Burns, rolls down to gully. And there's no run. I would have thought it's a little bit more difficult, because if it's your first ball, not quite warmed up, so you've got to take that into account as well.
But the statos of the world will say the probability is probably exactly the same.
Yeah, well,
who knows?
I think he might be sort of agreeing with you there. Yeah. De Grandhomme in outside the off stump, left alone, no movement on this occasion. There's a short mid wicket in, square leg, mid on. I'm going to call this a deep backward square. He's not even a long leg anymore. He's very square indeed. 2 slips, gully, cover, sort of extra cover really, and a slightly deeper mid off. The push and run would be an option.
I could have had a brilliant hat trick.
Oh, really?
At the SCG.
Grondom in, clipped away nicely, or tucked away, or glided away by Burns down to that deep backward square leg. And they'll come through for a single, 37 for 2, Burns to 25.
My hat-trick could have been Alan Border,
Oh, yes, that's a good start.
Dean Jones,
Oh, crikey, that's a lot of runs.
and then it could have been Steve Waugh. I know. Wow. And it was a sharp chance to David Gower at City Point, and he just didn't cling on to it. Oh, I mean, it was a great effort. But
David Gower, was it? Yes. Forward in defence comes Root to a full ball, pushes it to the offside, no run. That would have been...
that's a good threefer.
Well, do you remember the other year we had what we thought might be the best hat-trick in county cricket,
Yeah.
and it was, I want to say, Root Balance Bairstow?
Oh, good.
Or
I think it was Williamson, wasn't it? Wasn't it Root Bairstow Williamson?
It's a
By
good one.
Jordan Clark, was it?
Wow.
something like that, wasn't it? As de Grondom is in again, and that's solidly played by Root with the full face of the bat, something that Dom Sibley might want to have a little look at there.
Never
Full
got one,
face.
though. Never got one.
Never?
No,
Not
no.
even in sort of knockabout?
Might have got one in the backyard, but no. No, been on them a couple of times, but never managed to pull it off.
Well, they're pretty rare.
Yeah, they are.
In first-class cricket. They're not 10 a penny, are they?
Nope.
De Grondom in, and it beats the outside edge. A little bit of away movement. He's a tricky customer, is Colin de Grondom. You feel that the pressure's off a little bit when he comes on, but it isn't, because he's a classic Kiwi,
Yeah.
isn't he? I think
Yeah.
of Chris Harrison with the white ball years ago. So irksome.
Yeah,
you know.
irksome.
Just little bits of nibble.
Yeah, he shapes it, doesn't he? He does shape it. Well, I like the tallest wicket that you commentated on this morning.
Yeah, that felt tall, didn't
That
it?
felt tall. We had Ollie Robertson, 6'5", dismissing
Jameson, 6'8".
8.
Crawley takes a catch.
6'4".
6'4", 6'5". I think you're not going to get much taller than that, are you?
No.
As
No.
a combination.
I wonder-
Oh, that's it, Andy running.
Yeah, that is a tall dismissal. The smallest one, of course, would have been something perhaps a bit of Mullaritharan and a Court Jai Wardner.
Oh, yes, that's
Yeah.
a good one. Or Bangladesh, you could have had Mushfiqur Rahim. Yeah. Mahdi Hassan, maybe.
Perhaps.
Caught Mushfiqur Rahim and maybe Aravinda de Silva getting out. I mean, it's not going to happen because I don't think they played against each other, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. Yeah, actually, caught Aravinda de Silva, bowled Murali.
Yeah. And then
Gundappa Vishwanath would have been perfect there, wouldn't he? Neil Wagner into the attack, and his first ball is flicked away by Burns down to long leg, and they will pick up a single. 38 for 2, Burns to 26. Amidst all this, we should point out that there's talk of there maybe being a bit of a shootout at the top of the order with Crawley, Burns, Sibley, and if James Bracey were to do well, then does that put pressure on that top three? Well, at the moment, Rory Burns is the one who's impressing most today. He's on 26. Sibley out for a duck, Crawley for just 2, both of whom will be disappointed with the shots they played to get out. Albeit, I think you'd say the ball that got Sibley was a good ball, but as Jonathan Agnew said, the way he played it was less than perfect.
suspect.
Using the outside edge, really, as Wagner is in again. There's a bit of shape coming back in down the slope to Root, but Root lets it go by and it goes through low to BJ Watling. 6'7", 6'5", 6'4", as you guess, yeah?
Yeah, so what's that?
19 foot 4 inches. Yes. Yes. So anyway, just a reminder on the other matter. Just if you're listening, Gordon, well done.
Yeah.
Both on your 90th birthday and on that golden hat trick. But if you
Well, he got it
know
on his
of others-
90th birthday.
No. Pushed it to the offside next ball, fielded a point. There's no run. No, if you got it in 1974 though, he got it around. He was about 43 when he did it.
Very good.
So he's no spring chicken.
No, well.
And as a proper game, I mean, Ashurst
First 11.
against Edenbridge, I believe.
Yes.
Good side, Ashurst.
Yes. Grudge match.
I would think. Well, it would have become one after that.
Very good.
First 3 balls of a match. I mean, that's just
Where'd you go?
dreams of such things. Wagner in, and that beats the outside edge of Root. The previous ball had swung back in. This ball's just held its line, and these are testing times for England's batters here. Root and Rory Burns. Are you off, Tuffers?
Yeah, I can see Vic lurking.
He does that.
He does.
He does that. He
He's like a
does.
ninja.
They're more like a ninja turtle these days. But Wagner at the pavilion end. 2 slips a gully point. Wide mid-off is in. Left arm over the wicket to Root, who lets this go by again. And again it goes low through to Watling. A little bit wider of off-stump, Andy.
We see Root having to rebuild the innings pretty much every time he walks the crease for England at the moment. And Ronaldo, for much of his career, being very effective manipulating the ball into gaps. He's one scoring shot in his last 35 balls, including a 25-ball scoreless streak, his second longest in the last 7 years of Test cricket.
Wagner is into Root. Root has 9 at the moment. And Root, that's a very wide delivery. A good take from BJ Watling, diving to his right. End of the over, 38 for 2, England. We've had 17 overs of this innings. Burns 26, Root 9. Joe in Salford has been in touch. He says, I've not witnessed a hat-trick from the first 3 balls. However, one of my teammates did get out first ball of the season. Yes, that's a beauty, that one. This prompted much discussion on what kind of duck this was. A diamond duck is the first ball of the innings, so it needs to be an upgrade on this. Platinum or crispy aromatic, perhaps? Now, I like this email because Michael Brown, playing for Surrey in, I think, 2010, I want to say, was out off, I think it was the second ball of the season, not the first, but it was delivered at 10:59. So he was actually out before the official start time of the season, which was particularly mean. That was a rather cruel one, but yes. And also, I'll give you another kind of duck that I'm very interested in, is stumped off a wide the first delivery you face, but it isn't a legal delivery. So de Grandhomme is in, outside the off stump, left alone by Burns, and there's no run, because it goes down in the book as stumped X, bowled Y, 0. Balls faced, 0.
Is that right?
It does, yeah, because you haven't faced a ball, have you? Because it's a wide.
So if you're stumped off a wide, there's still 6 balls left in the over.
That's right. And the score could be 1 for 1 off no balls. And it actually was when Jason Roy was stumped off a wide, off the first ball of his innings. De Grandhomme in, driven nicely, square by Rory Burns. That's got to run away up the hill. I'm not sure it's going to make it all the way there. It's pursued, and then the ball sort of just stops. And Burns will get back for 3, moved with that to 29, 41 for 2. So I kind of felt that it was neither a diamond duck nor a platinum duck. It felt to me like a sort of Schrodinger's duck. It sort of faced a ball, but it sort of hasn't faced a ball.
It's unlikely
duck
to happen.
Carpaccio.
Duck carpaccio.
Hasn't been cooked at all.
Hasn't been cooked. Oh, I see what you mean, yes. So, yeah, there are...
You're unlikely to be stumped off a wide in a red ball game, are you? Do you think
less
first
likely?
Ball.
First ball seems unlikely, doesn't it? Grandhomme is in, and that's pushed into the onside by Root, just staying at the crease, a straight ball.
So that was a white. When Jason Roy was stumped off a wide off the first ball of the match, it must have been in a white ball game.
It was a white ball game, yes. Ben Nicholas, I like this. Last week, Finn Upton. I wonder any relation. I wonder if the Kent up. No, that's Ufton. Last week, Finn Upton, that's what's confused me, is de Grandhomme is in, outside the off-stump, swings gently into the gloves of BJ Watling of Kings Bromley Cricket Club. Took a golden hat-trick for under-15s against Uttoxeter. First time I'd seen it, says Ben. So we've got one there in the under-15s.
I've come late to this. What's a golden hat-trick again?
Well, first 3 balls of a match.
Oh, right.
Which our friend Gordon Rosser managed to do for Edenbridge against Ashurst. In again comes to Grandhomme, and Root comes gently forward and drives into the ground, pops up into the air and is stopped at short extra cover, and there's no run. De Grandhomme, he's parsimonious, is De Grandhomme, as our friend Jeremy Coney would say. He's just conceded the 5 runs. He's got 1 ball left in his 4th over. 2 slips and a gully in the short extra cover. So Root faces up, and then he's beaten by one on the outside edge. It's just little bits of movement from De Grandhomme, and England are struggling with him at the moment. End of the over, 41 for 2. Burns 29, Root 9. This in reply to New Zealand's all-out total of 378.
Well, it is very unlike Root to be kept quiet. He's usually very good at just nurdling ones here and there, far better than the others, but he's a bit edgy. In fact, de Grandhomme there in that last over, he took a little stride down the pitch before the ball was released almost. No great pace, of course, from de Grandhomme, and quite often we see the likes of Stokes and against little medium paces to try and mix up their length. So even Root, who is by a massive distance the most accomplished batsman in this lineup, is feeling a bit uneasy about the fact he hasn't scored for a long time.
Well, he's doing that thing that Stokes finds himself doing sometimes, isn't it? Sort of coming down on the wall, trying to negate, trying to get him to change his length, I guess, isn't he? Because at the moment, de Grandhomme's able to sort of bowl at him. Now they're just expecting the ball, by the way, which is why we've got a little delay.
He's getting a flicker of away movement too in the air, de Grandhomme. No great pace, but he gives it a chance to swing, if you like.
Who does he remind you of? It's
an old. You don't see many bowlers in Test cricket like this, de Grandhomme, because he's, people like pace or they like bounce. So I don't know yet. I mean, he looks like, more generically, a good old county trundler, de Grandhomme.
Yeah.
Who, will bowl in the old days, sort of 712 overs in the season for 71 wickets at 25.7.
Bit of Darren Stevens there, perhaps.
He's quicker than that.
Adil Wagner in full, clipped away to short mid-wicket. There's no run. We've had another message. Jeff Wilcox, not quite a golden hat-trick, but just wondering whether this feat has ever been heard of. Yelverton Bohemians Cricket Club against Plymouth Cricket Club, under-15s. The under-15s are rocking it today.
That's Dartmoor country, more or less. Yelverton.
Sam Burns comes on to bowl. Next over details are unfortunately illegible on my screen. Do you make any sense of that? Oh, you must have taken... Where's it? Dot, wicket, 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 wicket. 75 all out. Burns. He gets one on the pads, which just rolls away onto the onside. Wait to see the umpire's signal. It's probably a leg bye. It is a leg bye. 42 for 2. That's spearing down the leg side. 5 wickets in an over to bowl out.
Well,
Plymouth for 75.
I think just going up a grade or two. Didn't Pat Pocock at Hove one year? Well, he's certainly got 4 wickets in an over, I think.
Well, Chris Holt did that against Pakistan in 78, didn't he? He got 4 and 5.
Pocock had a remark. I can't remember exactly where, but I think against Sussex.
Yeah.
Well, back in probably the 80s, he had an astonishing over, which may not have included a hat-trick, but...
Wagner's in. That's driven by Root, and well, again, he's found the gap. Again, not with terrific power. He's playing very much within himself. He'll get a couple of runs as it goes through mid-wickets. Chased and retrieved. 44 for 2. Christopher comes and gets in touch. On the subject of golden hat-tricks, Mike Kelly of Mossley Hill Cricket Club took one last Saturday against New Victoria and managed a 4th wicket in the same over. So we're 0 for 4 at the end of the first over. Despite his achievement, Mossley Hill still somehow managed to contrive a loss.
Well, that must be pretty unusual to
Yes. Yes.
Take 4 weeks in over, but still be on the losing side.
So there are a few of them out there. There's a few of them. Here's Wagner in again, the right-handed Root, and that does swing back at Root, but it's wide, starts wide enough for Root to be able to leave it. He's got good awareness of his off-stump at the moment. 44 for 2. The score remains.
I think the pattern with Wagner is that for about 3 or 4 overs in his first spell, he pitches it up and sees if it's going to swing.
Yeah.
Then generally it doesn't swing much, and there's the odd drive for 4, and then the length changes.
I saw him bowl against your boys, Somerset team.
Yes, I did too.
A few years back.
For Essex.
For Essex. I'll come back to that in a minute. It's brilliant. He's in, and it's full, and just dabbed into the offside, backward as square, picked up in the gully region, no run. I think Bartlett and Byram were on, and were batting, and there was nothing in the pitch at all. He was banging in these bounces, and he had a backstop. It was absolutely wonderful. A proper backstop. I mean,
right behind the keeper.
Right behind the keeper.
To catch the top edge.
To catch the top edge. And he did not stop. He just kept on banging it in, and they did actually oblige in the end.
Yeah. Well, that's what Test players have been doing against him, essentially.
Daniel Reardon has been in touch. And as Wagner is in, and Root pushes forward in defence to the offside, but he won't get a run for it. End of the over. 44 for 2 England. Burns 29, Root 11. Daniel Reardon says De Grandhomme reminds me of Ian Austin, Lancashire 1990s. Discuss Vic Marks, and then Isha Guha will take over from me.
Well, I remember Ian Austin, who was a surprise selection in England's World Cup squad, 1999. Going to be a masterstroke. Didn't quite happen, but he stalwart cricketer for Lancashire. I'd say De Grandhomme is slightly quicker than Ian Austin and slightly taller with slightly longer hair. Hello, Isha.
Good afternoon to you, Vic. As Wagner comes in, the left arm quick, bowls wide of the off stump to Root, who allows it to pass through to the keeper. Lots of energy behind the ball, Neil Wagner. At the end of the over, 45 for 2, Burns on 29, Root on 11. I reckon he's one of my favourite cricketers in world cricket at the moment. Neil Wagner.
You like his bounces?
Well, I just like his energy. His teammates call him a bit mad, but...
I mean, it strikes me, you're right, that the Kiwis they've had, if you like, a couple reinforcements from Southern Africa. And Wagner now has played 50 test matches with the most astonishing record. And a more or less unique method at test level, i.e. the bouncer sort of attack, or the skimming short ball attack. But he's obviously a top bloke. I think he's one of these who transforms when he crosses the line. He's a delight off the pitch, but really quite competitive on it. Not the first to do that.
Long-haired Colin de Grandhomme is in again. Burns leaves outside the off stump.
And all the indications are that Devon Conway is cut from the same mould, i.e. They all like him apparently, but they'll like him even more when he scores double hundreds in the test match.
Exactly right.
So he's one of your favourites then?
Well, I just like his... You always like to see a bowler, don't you? Just running in and run for a brick wall for his team.
Yeah, and he's...
Or her team. As Burns, open stance, squared up, trapped on the pad, goes up for the appeal. De Grandhomme not given by Kettleborough. I think it might have pitched outside leg stump. Maybe a bit of height. Not a lot going for it. As they disperse, they come together, have a quick chat about it, but...
It was a quick chat, wasn't it, between keeper and first slip. De Grandhomme gave it the full throttle. He looked plaintively, not towards the umpire, but towards wicketkeeper and first slip, who showed really very little interest. And then he turned around and went back to his mark.
Burns, this time solid in defence, back down the pitch, no run. Good length delivery on off stump. But he bowled at the start of the year with 2 broken toes. Against Pakistan, Happy to keep going, and I think it was quite a close test match. They won with 4 overs to spare, including 11 straight overs, as Burns defends to mid-on.
I wonder how they prepare to play in England. Well, not just England teams, but any team, because they sort of know what's coming. He explores whether there's any swing initially, Wagner, and when he discovers there's not, he just changes his length and changes his field. So you know what's coming, but still he gets his wickets, doesn't he? And do you take on the short ball? How selective can you be?
De Grandhomme bowls, that good line and length. Burns defends to the offside, no run.
It's quite difficult to duck against him because he himself is not that tall, and he's very accurate. He skids on round about just below shoulder height. It keeps you guessing whether to duck or play it down or maybe try to hook it. But if it's too close to your body, you can't really get at it as with the hook shot. He's incredibly accurate. You don't think about accuracy when bowling short balls, but he's very good at that.
The left-handed Burns whips to wide mid-on, comes through for a single. A quick one as throw is sent in by Jameson. And it's an easy one in the end. Burns to 30, 46 for 2, England. Root on 11 at the end of the over. Yeah, he got Steve Smith into a bit of trouble
with the short
ball. Australia tour 2 years ago. Yeah, with the short stuff. And Steve Smith, who we know can score bucket loads of runs and doesn't seem to be fazed by anything. Got into a bit of trouble against it. Yeah, it was his kryptonite. And we have seen a bit of variable bounce today, so I wonder if it might be used to good effect at some point.
And we're just sort of waiting to see. We'll get a rough idea when the field changes. At the moment, he's still got a field that is set. Burns is on strike. It's set for, if you like, traditional away swing with 2 slips, a gully, and 3 men on the offside.
Here he comes now, chasing his shadow. Wagner bowls off the legs for Burns as that's heading out to the deep square boundary. Now into the rope in front of the grandstand. And a 4 for Burns. That is bread and butter for him. Nicely lent on it.
It's beautifully timed. It's one of those that didn't swing. You know, fullish ball, roundabout leg stump, just kept going. And Burns loves it there. I would have thought that might be the trigger to say, hang on a minute, I think I'll change my length now.
Yeah, right, I've had enough of this as England's 50 comes up. Approaches the crease now, Burns. This time playing this straighter to mid-on, off the front foot. Slightly fuller in length. As no run is taken. Just got the binoculars out, Vic.
And
It's one of those days. The hospitality boxes have been pretty full. And good to see the crowds back in, but the hospitality in particular.
they seem to be all busy, don't they?
Yeah,
looking
they
around.
are. And I just spotted a former England cricketer as
Right.
Wagner turns at the top of his mark. Past the stumps to Burns, pushing forwards and defending, patting it to the offside, no run. Wearing a green top,
An England cricketer with a green top. Female?
female,
Although, you know,
former ECB board member,
former.
very tall. She was in the team when I
Not Charlotte.
first made it, no.
Edwards.
No. Headmistress.
Not Lucy Pearson.
It is. As Wagner bowls down the leg side, gets a clip on that, maybe thigh pad from Burns as BJ Watling is sprawling over to the right, manages to stop the ball.
Is she still on the board? Do we know? I can't remember. The ECB board, I don't know, but you brought this up. You can finish it off.
I
please.
thought she moved to football. Maybe she still is on the board.
Anyway,
I should know, really.
but you played with Lucy. What
I
was
did
she
at the
as a
start of my
cricketer?
career.
Was she a bowl?
Left armour, yeah, tall. As Wagner bowls to Burns, driving to extra cover, no run.
And now she's a head teacher. I know she was at Solihull at one point, somewhere. But
Then up north
Up-
in Lancashire. I haven't caught up with her for a while, so I need to just.
Does that mean
that's not
for you? That's sort of
north
you
of the
know,
Watford Gap.
a bit beyond Worcester. Is that right? Must be so hard for those people up north. Sorry.
I know you can appreciate that, Vic.
yeah.
It's- Wagner ball squares up, Burns again, turns, appeals, not given. Michael Goff unmoved at the end of the over. He has got himself into trouble a little bit, Rory Burns, in this innings, but it has moved off the surface as well. A good length delivery on and around the off stump, just angling down the slope.
Yeah, well, there was a phase, wasn't there, last summer in the cricket we had, where people decided it's just no point reviewing when Michael Goff makes his decision because he got so many right, didn't he? It's he just every time that there was a decision that Michael Goff had been given, which was reviewed, it always seemed to be that he got it right last summer, and his stats were remarkably good, and they didn't muck around there. They had the big LBW shirt, not out, and very little debate as to whether to review.
Colin de Grandhomme sets off. Mullet blowing in the wind as he bowls to Root. Getting that bat in front of the front pad and playing it to mid-on. Batting out of his crease to de Grandhomme. I remember a spell of bowling, World Cup final, Vic, 2 years ago, and Joe Root really struggled to get de Grandhomme
right.
away.
Yeah.
It was a perfect pitch for him, really. As he shuffles away now, not the quickest, but there or thereabouts. That one outside the off stump and shaping away down the slope.
You're right, that's right. It was a very uncharacteristic innings from Root, wasn't he? He was nervy on that World Cup final day. But it may well be that, I'm sure it is, that the old analyst has got to work, and actually there's something about Grandhomme which kind of troubles Root, lack of pace almost.
Root tapping his bat down, back and across, punching off the back foot to a short extra, no run. I do apologise, Lucy Pearson is still on the ECB board.
Well, don't need to apologise to me for that. Anyway, so she was not exactly a mentor, but she was a senior citizen in your England side, is that right?
She was, yes. All beaten, Root outside the off stump. No bounce on that occasion as it heads through to BJ Watling. Off a good length as well, just skimming past the off stump.
If you're in the England camp, you want Root at the other end. He does seem to be unusually tormented by the medium. Are you still digging your hole here, Isha? Really?
As Root drives past extra cover to his right to Kane Williamson at mid-off, no run. Claire Connor's been messaging.
Just to sort of clarify a few things, is that right?
Who I'm actually seeing for dinner tonight.
Right.
Former England captain.
Another of your mentors. What's she up to nowadays then, Isha?
Head of women's cricket is de Grandhomme, bowls back of a length. Root cuts. It's a lovely dab cut down to deep backward point, and will fetch a boundary for it down the slope as well at the end of the over. So he moves to 15, 54 on the board for England. 2 wickets down. Feel the warmth coming through here into the commentary box. She says Isha was accurate about one thing.
Oh, well,
she is still
she is
tall.
at Lords. Go on, sorry. Keep going.
She is at Lords. She's wearing a green top.
Anything else?
That's 2 things. And the third one is she is still tall. She left teaching 3 years ago.
Yes.
Was working full-time for the FA, which I did say she moved across to football,
yeah,
but is still on the ECB board.
So you were nearly right on many counts.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, well, perhaps Claire can,
the incoming
fill you
MCC
in.
president.
Oh, indeed, yeah.
Saw Kumar Sangakkara about half an hour ago wearing his egg and bacon tie. Good to see him here in England.
Yeah, he's been marooned.
His family, yeah.
And you've got his title correct too. He is indeed the president of the MCC.
Thanks, Vic.
Sorry. But I didn't start digging that hole.
It's true.
Anyway, Root has managed to break the shackles, really. He was a long time stranded against de Grandhomme, but that late cut down to the tavern there has got him moving again. He's on 15. There's a big... just a quick drinks break?
Yeah, it is, but it's been enforced because I think they're looking at the ball.
Not for the first time, actually.
Yeah.
There's 23 consecutive dot balls that de Grandhomme bowled to Root. Root had, until he hit that 4 in his previous 50 balls, just 2 scoring shots, both 2s.
Yeah, slightly wider. It was there to be hit, really. Something else that's accurate for you, Victor. 54 for 2 on the board for England. Burns on 34 and Root on 15, and they're just swinging.
I'm not a pedant. I don't mind a bit of inaccuracy there and there. I mean,
that is a good thing about radio, isn't it?
What's that?
I mean, being able to describe things in different ways and...
Yeah, either accurately or inaccurately, and if you're lucky, no one's any the wiser. You're right.
You can make up what people do for a living.
I think I just spotted Jimi Hendrix over there in the bandstand. Carl Jameson returns to the attack then, this time from the pavilion end. Struggled from the nursery end, opening the bowling. And it is tough, actually, when you're first playing at Lord's, just getting used to the slope, gets that natural angle away from the right-hander with that shape away. So I wonder how he'll look to go here to Rory Burns, the left-hander on strike, the angle going away from him down the slope. Here he comes, running towards us, the tall frame. Bowls to Burns, who drives to mid-off, no run.
He's tall, isn't he?
Very tall, 6'8".
Incontrovertibly tall.
Even on the radio, he's tall.
He's tall.
Not as tall as Lucy Pearson. 2 slips in the gully in position. Point, extra cover, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket, and fine leg is Jameson. Bowls full again to Burns, who's covering the ball outside the off stump and defending to extra cover.
It's a big game for it's a big game for all the England players, but Burns was dropped, wasn't he, before so this is a sort of comeback test for him. So they're always important runs, but he especially wants to put together a substantial score so he doesn't suffer the indignity of being dropped again for a while. He started pretty well. He's timed the ball sweetly, actually, when it's in his arc.
And the one thing he doesn't have to cope with in this innings is someone bowling super rapid at 90 plus miles an hour is Jameson. Bowls down the leg side, it's whipped away out to deep backward square, fine leg coming around to collect the ball and throw it in. Neil Wagner down there, he picks up 1, moves to 35, 55 for 2. But different challenges that are posed by the skill levels of Tim Southey, of course. Swinging ball, the height of Jameson, Neil Wagner.
We haven't seen Wagner's first spell is over. I don't know how many overs he bowled, but just 3. I reckon it was 3 overs. Let's see if it's swinging.
Yeah, now
not
the short
really.
stuff.
And now maybe at some point we will see Wagner, perhaps from this end, change his length.
Because Burns was tested with the short stuff a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
His route is now on strike. A couple of bat taps. Still in his crease as he's backing across and defending to the offside. A good let delivery on the off stump. No run.
Burns' recent form since the West Indies series last year, which he finished with 2 half centuries at Old Trafford. Just averaged 78 runs in 5 tests coming into this series. Scores of 4-10 naught and 6 against Pakistan and 33 naught and 25 in India. So this is his highest score in his last 6 tests now.
Root, bat hovering above the stumps, bat tap, backing across and guiding to gully, no run. Those shadows gently extending out in the middle.
It's sublime conditions. We haven't been quite used to this.
No, it's gorgeous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's shirt sleeve order. That little a real hum around the ground rather than a contrived one. Interesting cricket. Lots happened today. Wickets have fallen. We're just in a nice tranquil phase, but anything could change any second.
Jameson bowls full on leg stump as Root nearly falls over to the offside, working it to mid-wicket. No run. Yeah, lots of pinks and blues. A couple of yellow shirts dotted around. Lots of boater hats. That is the end of the over. 55 for 2. Burns on 35. Root on 15. A little earlier on, New Zealand bowled out for 378.
Okay, well, change of bowling. Change of. You're going first, but I'll obviously
you're
follow.
You're going to stick around, Vic. Simon Mann's coming in.
Yeah. So we're going to have Wagner from this end. He bowled 3 overs from the pavilion end. Bowled okay, but didn't really get much movement. Was clipped for a couple of boundaries. Now he is coming here, and you just keep an eye on the field, and it's still set for the fuller length delivery. But I don't think it'll be long before he changes tack. And Burns is leading the resistance at the moment. Simon's here, and so poised, alert, is Jeremy Coney.
Good afternoon. Here is Wagner then, going into bowl to Burns. It's on his pads, clipped away nicely. It felt like a 4-ball really from Wagner. It was a leg stump half volley, but he hit it straight to Santner at mid-wicket. And he rather missed out there. Batsmen get a bit frustrated when they do that, because that was a genuine half volley on his pads. And just needed to beat Santner on either side. It would race down the hill for 4. 55 for 2. England fighting hard since the loss of Crawley to that waft outside the off stump when he'd made 2 and the score was 18. Root 15, Burns 35, not without alarms. He's also played a few crisp strokes as well. 2 slips in the gully. Wagner goes in and bowls to Burns, and Burns shuffles forward in defence and plays it up to Colin de Grandhomme, who's covered his mullet with a sun hat. Mullets are on their way back. Did you have a mullet, Jeremy? You must have done when you were younger. Did you? No?
No, I don't think so.
You didn't go that far?
No, I found it difficult. I found my hair started to curl once it got past about an inch long. And
well,
probably looked a little...
Well, I think you can still have a curly mullet, I think.
Oh, right. Yeah. OK.
This is Wagner running in from the nursery end to bowl to Burns. And Burns guides that away to cover. And there is no run, picked up by Latham. But they're on their way back, apparently, according to my daughter.
That's fashion. We're not going with any of that any longer.
Okay.
You don't, do you?
Well, I don't think I can get it down to mullet length anymore. It'll take me a long time.
Yeah.
Back with Wagner. Well, when he gets the ball back, anyway, it's been shined furiously by Williamson at mid-off. And now he lobs it to Wagner, who sets off. Orange soles to his boots as well. He bowls to Burns. Straight delivery. Homing in on middle and off. Burns plays that walking defensive shot, angling it away into the offside towards cover. And there's no run. So New Zealand 3-7-8, England 55 for 2. And New Zealand on top in this game. But there are still possibilities for England, but you'd rather be in New Zealand's position at the moment. Again, Williamson delaying things by shining that ball. There's still 27 overs left after this one in the day's play, so we won't get them all in again. We'll go on to 6:30, and Wagner bowls to Burns, and again drifts onto his pads, and Burns clips him away down towards fine leg, and Jameson's down there. So it's a single to Burns, takes him to 36. And New Zealand defending that 3-7-8, have England at 56 for 2 after that single. So a few changes around for Root. He was struck on the glove. And he was also struck in the nets the other day as well. So whether there's a little issue there.
A digital problem?
Yeah. And he's taking a fresh... He's back in... Well, he was to de Grandhomme, batting a long way outside his crease. It looks as if he is to Wagner as well. Let's see where he sets up. He's having a look at the field on the leg side over his left shoulder. It's difficult to tell, but it looks as if he's out of his crease. Wagner bowls, and Root is beaten. Cross him, pushing at that one, and through to Watling. And that's the end of Wagner's over. 56 for 2. Wagner's bowled 4 overs for 9 to go with his entertaining 25 not out earlier. Double 100 from Devon Conway.
Well, I'd have to say that I've just been slightly more impressed with his batting today than his bowling. I think the bowling hasn't quite the line, especially to Burns, the left-hander, has been very leg side-ish. And so Burns has been able to pick him off quite comfortably on a number of occasions, mainly for singles, but one at the boundary. And while he was with de Grandhomme, it had a distinctly kind of we're holding period look about it. De Grandhomme tends to be used in that way for New Zealand, bowling at perhaps 75 miles an hour. And getting the ball to move just a tad away from the right-hander, used in that method very much.
This is Jameson bowling from the pavilion end to Burns, who covers up and runs it down towards the gully. And there is no run.
But there has been some indifferent bounce, hasn't there? You mentioned the one from, I think it was from de Grandhomme actually, that hit Root on the hand. It was lucky it wasn't perhaps one of the quicker bowlers. One certainly from Southey I recall watching, and that really was a grubber along the ground to Watling a couple of times. So the taller bowlers, I think McGrath was always a danger, wasn't he, here at Lord's?
He took an 8 for in one Ashes Test match. Jameson bowls again. Burns covers up.
The other thing I notice about Jameson is the length of his bowling stride. It is very long, and I wouldn't be surprised if someone like, I mean, he's 6'8", but I wouldn't be surprised if Ollie Robinson isn't bowling, and release point, if you like, is almost higher than Jameson's at the moment today. And I think his body is at the moment falling away slightly because of that length of stride. The front leg is straight, but he's not getting over the top of it. He's struggling to catch up.
Goes in again to bowl to Burns and goes past the outside edge. Burns are going to guide it away, misses it, taken by Watling, sprawling away to his left-hand side.
So he perhaps doesn't have that bounce that I would have expected, and he's bowling a little fuller at the moment than I would normally see him.
So is he different today from how he bowled in the winter, how he looked in the winter?
I just noticed that his stride just seemed, that delivery stride, so important. The body falling away to what you'd call cover point on a right-hander.
James bowls shorter length. Burns up on his toes, guides it down into the gully. Picked up by Nichols, who was the first batsman dismissed today, which after that there's a steady procession, or there has been a steady procession. Caught down there at fine leg. 56 for 2. He's made a great start to his Test career, Jameson, and he bowled a superb delivery to get rid of Dom Sibley, angled in, leaving him. Flicked the pad, LBW. Umpires call for impact and hitting. Jameson bowls, forward goes Burns, again running it away down into that gully region.
That's a better line to Burns, isn't it? Because he kind of is set. The other thing is that you could throw a wider ball full up, I think, to someone like Rory Burns, because he holds the bat very low down on the handle, and kind of the bottom hand quite a long way around, so the hand is kind of closed off, so to drive the ball just in front of square, very difficult for him to, with that grip and with the way he sets up, I think quite hard to do, and it would bring sort of gully and slip into play.
Jameson tries again, goes in now and bowls to Burns. It's full, dug out by Burns down into the gully region. Just to exemplify that, it's not easy. And there was one early in the over actually where he tried to drive and missed it, went past the edge. It was very full. It swung after it, gone past the outside edge of the bat. So that was a maiden over from Jameson. 1 for 20. Results, got something for us?
Well, Joe Root mentioned he'd scored 4 off 50 balls after a reasonably fluent start, 7 from his first 6, then just 4 off his next 50, which is the second fewest he's ever scored in a 50-ball sequence in his 104 Test career, 105 innings in which he's batted 50 or more balls, so unusually slow from England's skipper.
Well, there's the Colin de Grandhomme factor, you see. That's he just says, if he doesn't get a wicket, New Zealand are not really concerned about. Be nice to pick up one if you can, Colin, de mullet, but really dry it up for us, please. That's the kind of role that he seems to take. And if it does move a little bit, he's in the game, I think. I mean, there's no reason why Watling couldn't stand up over the stumps.
Yeah. Here's Wagner bringing a new over, outside the off stump, well outside the off stump to Root, who's happy to let it go by.
Wagner doesn't look himself at the moment to me. This is not Wagner's style. I mean, he normally starts a little bit like this, but he will have reverted to his main and principal method. I mean, he gets I think I saw some sort of stat that said 58% of his wickets are from short deliveries, which is the highest of anybody, of course.
Sets off again. He's in his 5th over, again outside the off stump. There's no stroke from Root, just ignores it. So when does he normally start bowling his short balls?
Oh, after 3 or 4. I mean, of this, he just tires of this after one. I think most people do.
Yeah.
Because it's not moving for him.
Hold on a second, Jeremy.
Yeah, well...
It might be about to change. The fielder's gone back from square leg next to the umpire.
Yeah, but not enough fielders on the leg side, I don't think.
Out towards the grandstand. So there's a fine leg now and a deep square. So we'll see. He's got a 6-3 offside field, though. Wagner into bowl to Root. It's full again outside the off. Just a hint of in-swing there, but it started wide. Root was able to leave it. Collected by Watling. So you talk about Root being I mean, England have been very watchful. 56 for 2. This is the 26th over of their innings. So around about 2 and over.
I think you're right, but at the same time, I don't think they've been under tremendous pressure.
2 slips in a gully. Wagner circles beneath us, bowling at the nursery end of the ground. Past the umpire now, up to the stumps to bowl to Root. Again, it's in that channel outside the off stump. Again, there's a hint of in-swing, nothing more than that. And Root again ignoring it and off towards square leg to settle himself. 15 not out to him. And it's got a bit of an arm wrestle at the moment, or phony war going on out there. England's still a long way behind. And with this thinnish batting lineup, so much you feel depends on Root. With Lawrence Pope to come, Bracey on his debut. Here's Wagner bowling. Short there is the short ball. There's a low scooping pull by Root out through mid-wicket, and the fielder who was sent out to deep square runs round, Santner away to his left-hand side about 40 metres to field, and Root comes back for 2 runs, and a manufactured shot that one from Root. A low help into the onside takes him to 17, and England up to 58 for 2. Is that the first short ball we've seen from Wagner? I think it was, isn't it? In his 5 overs so far. It's amazing you can keep it going at the age of 35, isn't it? To keep banging it in, it does take its toll on the body. He somehow manages to do it. Here he is again. Normal service resumed that time. Full, drawing Root forward. Blocked it out towards cover, and there's no run. That's the end of Wagner's over. So he's bowled 5. What do New Zealand do now with him? 58 for 2. Burns 36. Root on 17.
I'm interested to see whether he feels on a slow pitch like this. Only Wood has really looked to bowl a short pitch delivery, and at the moment Wagner, I would have thought, was in the 80s just in terms of pace, which is pretty much like Anderson and Broad and Robinson. But Robinson's a taller man than Wagner, and I wonder whether he feels happy about using the short pitch quite so much, whether it just won't work here. He'll give it a crack, though, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, in that Test match that we saw him bowl well and take wickets, took 5 for, didn't he, on the final day in Mount Maunganui? I mean, the pitch, it was a bit on the slow side. It was this sort of colour, and he managed to drag something from it with those short pitch deliveries. Here is Jameson now to bowl to Burns. Burns, does he withdraw the bat? I think he does. It was short of length. Burns held the bat inside the line, and it went through to BJ Watling. It's one of the features, isn't it, of playing in New Zealand, that you seem to have really got that right now, that idea of playing on those grassy banked outgrounds, if you like.
Small grounds, boutique grounds, really, where you don't get more than perhaps 10,000 would be a very large crowd.
Jameson past the umpire, up to the stumps, bowls to Burns. Burns is quietly in defence, pushing the ball up to the Grand Home at mid-on, and there's no run.
And I think it works well in New Zealand. It's not our major sport, and it's quite a nice experience. You get an intimacy, I think, with the game that sometimes lacks. I mean, this has its own own beauty, doesn't it, here? But you get to places like the MCG, which are, huge coliseum.
Did you go to the MCG Test match? When New Zealand were there? Yeah.
Yes, I did. Yeah. Yes.
Here is Burns again playing quietly into the onside up towards mid-on, and there's no run. I mean, New Zealand in the World Test Championship final, but does that tour of Australia still rankle with them or niggle them a bit? Because
I hope so. It niggled me.
Yeah, because they went there and they were thrashed 3 times.
Absolutely taken to the cleaners.
Yeah. And the three in a row. All 3 games were very similar as well.
Well, they were. Well, I mean, New Zealand did have a couple of issues that they had. That last Test match, there were about 3 or 4 out with illness and so on. There was an injury to Bolt in the first Test, so he couldn't play.
Jameson to Burns. Burns let that one go. All outside the off stump.
Ferguson broke down.
That's right.
Who was playing, and so and they had no warm-up game whatsoever. Not even a 2-day warm-up game. They had a little net out in the middle of the Wacker, and so it just was not well organised and well planned. But that's not an excuse. They accepted the schedule, and they should have done better. I think they were very disappointed with the whole thing
because it had a big build-up that tour,
huge
didn't
build-up,
it?
yes.
Jameson bowls outside the off stump, and Burns allows it to go through.
I mean, they're the side that we don't seem to be able to get at, other than the 85 side, of course. He parenthetically he adds.
Yeah. Who was in that?
Oh, I don't know.
All right. Okay.
Richard Hadley. 33 wickets in a 3-test match series. No. Wow, how can you do... who can do that over there?
No, and they were hopeful as well, weren't they, of doing something significant when they went to Australia last time.
Yes, they were.
But they were sort of sent on their way. Jameson bowls, full to Burns, who plays that skewed drive into the offside. Goes straight to backward point, and there's no run. So I think we've had 2 runs in the last 3 overs. I think it's consecutive maidens from Jameson, and drinks are coming onto the field. So still 24 overs left in the day's play. This will take 5 more minutes out of the day as we head to 6:30. 58 for 2, and the game is slow motion at the moment. Root 17 and Burns on 36. I also had that feeling. I heard Jim Maxwell say it as well. There was a New Zealand player who was on the Stumped podcast, which Jim presents, and Alison, who presents it, Alison Mitchell, was talking. I just don't remember which player it was, but Jim, his first question about New Zealand doing well and hoping to qualify for the World Test Championship final and moving up the rankings. And Jim's first question is, but what about that 3-0 in Australia? You can't really say you're the world number 1 or top side in the world as you come to Australia and challenge us. So there is that sort of attitude a bit, and that's why I thought that must have really rankled in New Zealand. They were sort of almost patted on the back, sent on their way.
Well, I think it's fair because it was the manner of the defeats as well. I mean, if they were close and they were challenging a bit, but they weren't. And so that was the disappointment as far as New Zealand was concerned. They just seemed a mile away. I mean, they have had victories, Simon. They for example, they won in UAE against Pakistan 2-1, which was a very good effort.
And they beat India at home as well. Yeah,
and they've beaten. They beat Sri Lanka in one of those games that they played in the World Test Championship. So they drew that 2 series. But New Zealand seemed to play a lot of 2-test series, and that's a shame, I think. Personally, it doesn't feel like a series. You need to have a 3rd Test match at the very least.
Well, they should be really.
This is a later series.
Yeah, this is slotted in, isn't it? But they should be over here playing 3-4 Test match series.
They should. It would be nice to think that they could do that.
Yeah. How is it that they haven't been here since 2015? But, that seems a glitch in the schedule, doesn't it? If this was added late. So that would have, I don't know when they were next due to come to England before this series was added.
Well, it's usually every 4 years.
That's already a 6-year gap.
Yeah.
I mean, England have been to New Zealand twice since New Zealand have been here. They've played two
and have been beaten
series.
twice.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where New Zealand
anyway,
really...
Dan's coming in to pick up the commentary.
I mean, the way they've got to the the World Championship final is predicated on winning at home. It's very simple. They just, in the last, since 2015, correct me, I'm sure you will, if I'm wrong, but I think they've had something like 22 tests in New Zealand and have won 20. And one of them is a draw, one of the other ones. So they've really only been beaten by Australia in New Zealand or in Australia. So that's what they have to attend to now. But they're lacking bolt here to me at the moment. That's what's missing. That last whole period to me was slightly stagnating the game. I mean, this was waiting for either Southey, but more particularly Jameson, to come back and bowl and provide a bit more of level of threat to the deliveries. Wagner, to me, doesn't look to have found a line, particularly from the nursery end. Everything seems to be slightly leg side to Burns in particular. There's no movement for him. I'd rather he bowled almost from the nursery end, from the pavilion end, to see if the slope will help him get a bit of just lift, because bowling into the slope as it is, you often get just a wee bit of hold and lift with the delivery. I'd like to see Jameson come around the wicket more to particularly the left-handed Burns, but I can't see people thinking in that kind of way. What do we need to do? We need a wicket here now. You don't want to allow someone like Root to really get set in an innings, or Burns. Burns can score runs and hurt you. So I don't think you want those kind of, that last hour that New Zealand have bowled. I'm not sure what they've achieved.
No, it's been quite a stolid hour, really, in a way.
Well, they've held on. You know, they've had them slightly by the neck.
England have not gone anywhere, have they?
No,
I suppose 27
no, that's
overs,
what I mean.
58 for 2.
Yeah.
So Wagner's going to start up after the drinks break from the nursery end, and a little paddle flick pull by Root down to long leg will bring him a single. It was a shortish ball, and didn't really get up, but he got on top of that and worked it down to long leg for a single. He moves to 18, 59 for 2.
See, I think if he really runs in hard, I can't see him really running in hard at the moment, Wagner, and really trying to hit the pitch as hard as he can. It's unlike him to be bowling this full length for as long as he has. Maybe that's the way he did when he was at Nottinghamshire. I don't know. I can't remember. At Essex, he played at Essex as well, I think.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
He did, with a great deal of success. On pitches that weren't often that responsive for him, and he was very aggressive. We were talking about this with Vic Marks. He bowled a sustained bouncer barrage at one point.
Well, I'd like to see that, because I think, though, if you do hit this pitch hard, you do start to get some variation and bounce. And that's exactly what you want, really. I think in these sort of moments when it's not swinging for you, you've got to be providing some level of threat, surely.
Well, he's coming round the wicket to the left-handed Burns, the forward short leg, which suggests a bouncer barrage and a leg gully, and Burns pulls down to deep square leg. It's a risky shot with the field as it's set. There's a kind of, not exactly a leg gully, he gets a single. It's a sort of backward square leg, but he's almost there for the catch, and there's a forward short leg and then a deep square leg. So I think Wagner's now decided it's going to be banged in.
That looks more like the field. That's 5 on the onside at the moment, but those 4 you mentioned all around square, and the fine leg, of course. It does suggest that's going to be the attack at Burns now.
Over the wicket, the right-handed Root, who cuts gloriously down through backward point for 4. Too wide, bit of width, got on top of it, crashed it away to the boundary, and there's a sound we haven't heard too much of for a while. The crowd, I'm not going to say singing, grumbling, moaning, Root. 64 for 2. Peter Everson has been in touch. I don't suppose it's the darts player, Peter Everson. He's a very famous darts player back in the 90s. Peter Evans, I don't think it's him, but he's been in touch. We were talking about hat-tricks for the first 3 balls of a match.
Oh.
A golden hat-trick. As Wagner is in. And Root pulls fine, very fine, but there is a fine leg who's pretty fine, and he runs round to his right to stop the ball. Just going to pick up a single, 65 for 2, Root 23. So
Who's done that?
Well, a chap I know called Gordon Rosser, who's just celebrated his 90th birthday back in '74.
Gosh, that's not a bad hat trick then, is it?
Yeah, well, it was in
90.
74. It was in 1974.
Oh,
so he was
okay.
about 43 at the time.
Oh, okay.
Picked up 3 wickets the first 3 balls of a match for Edenbridge against Ashurst Cricket Club. So people have been coming at us with other examples of this. And Peter Everson, unfortunately, says, I was in the middle of a hat-trick on the first 3 balls of a Derbyshire and Cheshire League match around 1966. What made matters worse, it was my first match of the summer for Hazel Grove First 11, having just got back home from college where I'd been playing a decent standard. We were away at Chapel Le Frith, who at the time were the best team in the league. Their opening bowler, David Page, was
Is this England?
Well, yeah, Chapel Le Frith, yes. Chorlton come Hardley and all that. Their opening bowler, David Page, I'll come back to it, as another short ball is pulled by Burns. This is a risky business that Burns is engaged in here because, as we said, there's a forward short leg, there's a backward square leg, there's a forward square leg, and there's a deep forward square leg and a long leg. Actually, have we now at a 6-3 field? There's no slip, there's a gully, point, extra cover, and then this very, very telegraphed field for Rory Burns. Do you know what? I think I might come back to Peter Everson after Wagner has stopped bowling at Rory Burns, because this is rather intriguing passage of play. He's in short again, and Burns just gets a bit of glove on that, and it rolls quite fine down to long leg for a single. He's being slightly discomforted here. Moves to 38, 67 for 2. It's another no ball.
Yep.
So another run to the total. So I'll just get back to this now. David Page was one of the league's most successful bowlers over a number of years. Our opening bat, Smiler Miles, a prolific run scorer, was bowled first up. And I was caught at short leg by Arthur Brick. This is all real, isn't it? And I can't remember how number 4, Rick Bennett, was out, 3rd ball of the game. Notwithstanding our start, I think we finished with a reasonable total, but not surprisingly, we lost the game. Some marvellous names in there. But yes.
Well, thank you, Peter.
It happens. Root on strike now as Wagner's in over the wicket to him. Left arm, short again. And Root again gets on top of this and just rolls his wrist and it gets it quite fine again, down to fine leg. Another run. And what will happen here with this line of attack, Jeremy, is that runs will be scored, a wicket might go. Stuff's going to happen, isn't it? Because, well, especially if the batters decide they're going to go after it. And it looks like Root's decided he's got his own method.
They can, provided the height of the delivery from Wagner is round about the belly button. I don't think it's high enough at the moment. It needs to be shoulder, chin, and even up a little higher if you can, to create problems.
The pitch hasn't given an awful lot of that, has it?
No.
In the 2 days we've seen. He's round the wicket again to Rory Burns. Short again. Burns gets hold of this one, though, and he'll pick up 4 for it. He got that much finer. He did well to get right inside the line of that. It was a little higher, but not, I think, as Jeremy wants it, properly high, around throat, shoulder.
But also the line.
Yeah,
that's down leg side.
So he can get inside it, can't he?
Easily.
Well, he's picked up 4, end of the over, an expensive one. 73 for 2. Did it? Feels like a lot of runs off that over. Andy?
15.
15, yes,
13 off the bat and 2 no balls.
2 no balls. It also felt like a long over. Root 24, Burns 42. So, runs, as I say, runs coming from the over, but you can see a potential mistake happening here because Burns is not deciding to sort of wear it or duck it, is he? He's going after it.
With 7 scoring shots from the 8 balls in that over. England had only 16 scoring shots in 17 overs before the drinks break since tea.
Thank you. Well, it's livened things up a bit, hasn't it? Jameson, who's bowled 8 overs, 1 for 20, starts in the over from the pavilion end to the right-handed Root. And Root gets in behind this and just pushes that to the offside. There's no run. Other news, I might save the Pocock and the Pat Pocock news for when is... No, I'll give it to you. So we were talking about these golden hat-tricks, and then everything sort of developed into more wicket-taking feats, if you like, rapid wicket-taking feats. And we mentioned Pat Pocock, and Graham Fowler, formerly of this parish of Test Match Special, got in touch to describe Pat Pocock's extraordinary feat of taking 7 for 4 in 2 overs. Jameson is in, and that's defended again. Keeps a bit low this time, and Root had to jab down on that, pushed it not far up the wicket, and there's no run. I'm hoping Andy can find it for me. It's 1972, Surrey versus Sussex. He went, in his last 2 overs, wicket, dot, wicket, 2 dot, wicket, 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 1 wicket, 1. So 7 for 4 in 2. Apparently the batters were flaying somewhat in desperation. But I think he said that the game ended in a draw.
Goodness.
Yes, there's a lot going on.
Was that
there.
first innings or second innings?
We'll find out. Jameson's in, and that's worked into the onside by Root. It was full on the toes, and he can't beat mid-wicket. There's no run. So that's a feat, isn't it? And at one point in that, he's taken 7 wickets in 11 balls for 3 runs. Off spin.
Yes, off spinner. Pocock.
Yeah, you don't necessarily think of them as being the sort of people who'd run through you.
Foxy Fowler didn't play for either of those sides.
No,
did he?
he's a Lancastrian.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, but he's a fine student of the game.
Good, isn't it? Yeah, lovely to hear from him.
Jameson in, and that's short and cut gloriously by Root past the diving gully. The pigeons scatter, and the ball runs down to the backward point boundary. Really, it was square enough. It's a lovely shot. He plays that well. He gets on top of it and picks up 4 more runs at Cumming. 77 for 2, and Root was moved to 28 with that. And I've received a fair few suggestions have come to me via Twitter for extraordinary feats of wicket taking. Alfie Agar took 4 stumpings in 5 balls for Berkshire Under-11s in 2018 versus London Schools. 4 stumpings in 5 balls.
It's a good effort.
It suggests a certain cavalier attitude, I'd say, by the batters. Here's Jameson into Root, who gets up on his toes and defends a slightly angled bat to gully, deep gully, almost backward point. There's no run. Yes, Andy.
I found the scorecard for that game in 1972 in Eastbourne, the Saffrons ground, and it was Sussex chasing on the final day, needing 5 to win off the last over.
5 off the last over? And it went wicket, 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 1 wicket, 1.
Yes, and it was a run out off the final ball, actually.
So there was another. So how many were they down at the end?
9.
Oh, marvellous. Jameson into Root. That's jagged back off the seam a long way. Root's left it alone. It wasn't threatening the stumps, but it's gone a long way. And Watling moves to his left to take quite high up as well. Suggestions of a little bit of an evenness of bounce, perhaps. Jeremy's, I think, you're on your way. You are on your way. You're on your way. Michael Vaughan's coming in to join us. Let's get back to this extraordinary game. So what was the target that was set?
The target, I think, hang on, I'm just trying to work it out from the scorecard. Well, I think it was 207 was the target.
And they were at one
maybe
point.
Maybe they needed 6 off the last ball. They were 187 for 1.
Right.
With Greenwich, not Gordon Greenwich, G.A. Greenwich, Jeff.
Right, yes.
And Roger Prideaux played a few tests for England, going well. And then mayhem broke loose as Pocock took his 7 wickets in 11 balls, followed by a run out off 12th ball of his final over. So they ended 202 for 9.
So they scored runs at the other end of the over in between. But that takes a bit of ticker, doesn't it, Michael Vaughan, to put your off spinner on to bowl the last over, defending 5, and he picks up 4 wickets and there's a run out.
Tactical genius.
Yeah, who was their captain that day? It wouldn't be Roger Knight then, it'd be
Mickey Stewart.
Mickey Stewart. 1972 was this?
Yeah.
Wow. That's very much towards the end of Mickey Stewart's career. He took his famous 7 catches in an innings in 1957, so he won't have been young in 72. Wagner, left arm over the wicket into the left-handed Burns. He's over the wicket now, and he's gone short again, and Burns has pulled at it and missed it. Now, so let me talk you through this field, because Michael's joined us. I'd love to get his views on this. The previous over, Wagner conceded 15 runs. He came round the wicket to the left-handed Burns with a field mostly behind square on the leg side, or just in front of square. Now he's got a definite leg gully, I'm calling that. There's a forward square leg, a short mid-wicket, a slightly deeper mid-wicket, Colin de Gondom, and then a deep square leg as Wagner is over the wicket. And Burns pulls this nicely. It's a hand on it, just the leg gully, and it's just going to run down towards the long leg boundary. Just picks up 1. 78 for 2, Burns on 43. We've seen Wagner come up with variety of short ball attack, hasn't he? This is a sort of variation on the previous over.
Yeah, we've seen him do it so well over the last few years. It's not easy to face this kind of bowling as a batsman. You know exactly where it's going to be. You've got all these fielders set. Do you play it? Do you kind of try and defend? You try and sway. There's quite a few things that you have to decide upon as a batter. I don't think they needed to go for it.
No?
I thought they've gone for it a little bit too soon. I thought New Zealand were controlling the day and the game. They just had England in a nice position. England weren't scoring, and all of a sudden they've gone to this tactic, and England just started to gather some momentum.
Well, they got 20 runs since drinks in the 2.1 overs since drinks as Wagner is in to Root, who pulls. With control down to long leg for one more, 79 for 2, Root to 29, Burns has 43. Now then, this is a very important announcement I'm going to make, Michael, and indeed Andy Zaltzman, because he's going to be part of this. We are seeking representatives from club sides across the nation to take part in a new Friday tea time test match special quiz. We want to pit cricket clubs against each other in a battle of cricket trivia, and I'd like you to take part. Email us on tms@bbc.co.uk. Wagner's in again to Burns, short again. It'll always be short. It's pulled with no timing to square leg, and there's no run. 79 for 2, the score remains. So it's a Friday tea time quiz.
And the host is?
Well, tomorrow it'll probably be me. I think so. Think of me as a sort of like poor man's Alexander Armstrong. And think of Andy Zaltzman as a kind of a rich man's Richard Osman. So I will be asking asinine questions and making occasional snide comments. And then we'll be handing over to Andy to describe, after we've had the answers, as Wagner is in again. It's just a gully, no slip, short, pulled by Burns. Nicely, out through deep backward square. That'll go for 4. It takes him to 47. And England do have some momentum here. They're 83 for 2. They were 58 for 2 after 27 overs at the drinks break. And straight after the drinks break, the tenor of the match has changed as Wagner has gone to this sort of permanently short ball approach. That didn't get up. It's around about waist
Too
height.
straight as well. I think if you're going to go for this theory, I think he's going to bowl the odd bouncer that's just a bit wide of off stump. And if Rory Burns is going to be playing the pull shot, he's going to be trying to drag it and have to fetch it. I mean, it's all been kind of in and around the shoulder.
And that one really didn't get up to it, so it was even easier for him. There is this sort of, this leg gully has moved ever squarer now. And now, short mid-wicket is just saying, do you want me just here? In the previous over, Wagner was round the wicket. He's staying over the wicket for the time being. He'll just contract slightly. Here comes Wagner into Burns, and it's short, and it's pulled away down to long leg, just past the diving leg gully for a single, 84 for 2. Burns has 48. That is the end of the over, but I implore you, because I'm very shortly going to hand over, I think, aren't I? I probably am. I implore you, get in touch with us. TMS@bbc.co.uk. We want you.
And how many on each team? Can a club have a few representatives in the same room? And
look at our producer, a couple. A couple, I think, is acceptable.
Yeah.
Men with bibs have come on. That's my cue to leave. Andy Zaltzman, you looked like you were about to say something. No, you weren't. In that
Please
case,
do, Andy.
in that case, Michael, more thoughts on the sudden change of tenor of the match. At 84 for 2, Burns on the threshold of a half-century. He has 48. Root has 29. I'll make way for Jonathan Agnew.
Yeah, the Wagner tactic of going short hasn't been a successful one so far for New Zealand. Jameson in the last couple of was just bowled a bit too short as well. It's almost like just knocked New Zealand off their tracks. The last few overs, and they're playing nicely. Rory Burns and Joe Root. It's been a common trend with this England Test match team for quite a while. 20 for 2 just seems to be the norm. It's generally down to Joe Root to get them out of the hole again.
Indeed, here's Jameson bowling, and that's flicked away by Burns. That'll be 4 through fine leg. And the man down here, Wagner, can't get near it. So another boundary. And Rory Burns reaches his 50. Played pretty well too. Patient innings. Important for him to get some runs. He lost his way in the winter. So that's a nice start to the international summer for him.
I was just saying to Dan about the tactic for Wagner to go short, it's almost like derailed New Zealand's game plan, which before that was very disciplined, not many bad balls at all.
Jameson bowls outside the off stump. Burns allows that through. I agree, and they were being so meticulous about the shining of the ball too, weren't they? They were really working hard on it, and they still are. But when the ball's being hurled into the middle of the pitch and being hit, that shine goes and the hardness goes. It's just not the pitch for it, really, is it? I mean, it's so slow.
Not yet. And I just think that kind of tactic, it's almost like a tactic that you may go to tomorrow when things get a little bit harder. I didn't think they needed to go to that tactic just so soon.
Jameson, sun behind cloud, bowls. Burns plays slightly crookedly here across his pad. Ball that's just short of a length is played to mid-wicket. 88 for 2. They were 18 for 2 when Crawley was out for 2 after Sibley for a duck. So there was plenty of activity before that when New Zealand had been bowled out. It was a really entertaining day, this. They lost 7 for 132 today, lost 4 for 6 in 8 overs. But, last wicket stand of 40 between Wagner and Conway. Put New Zealand on 378. Burns allows the next one to go through. So 378, having been 338 for 9. Highly entertaining stuff from Wagner, 25 not out. He saw Conway to his double 100, but then became the first man ever in Test cricket history to be run out for 200. Which is another bizarre claim to fame. That he's had a number of admirable ones in the course of this innings. That one of the more bizarre ones. He was run out literally by a frame by the third umpire. Jameson loping in with enormous strides, bowls. Burns comes shuffling forward, and with a massive boot, Jameson kicks the ball up, football style, but then can't complete the catch. Robinson bowled really well, and obviously the focus of much unwanted attention ever since about this time yesterday, in fact. But he finished with 4 wickets. Mark Wood took 3. And Robinson also took a catch down in the deep. He should have had 5. He had a drop catch off him too. Jameson on his way, bowls. Burns a little awkwardly fends that away off his body. Some extra lift there for the big fast bowler. He picks up a single into the leg side.
How many overs has Tim Southey bowled, Andy? Must be due another spell.
He bowled 8, 5 before tea, 3 after tea in his opening spell. Burns's half century came from 90 balls with his 8th 4. It's his 11th score of 50 or more in Test cricket. He has 200s amongst them, and his 3rd in just 4 innings against New Zealand in England's 2 Test tour there late in 2019. He had 52 and 31 in Mount Maunganui, then 101 in Hamilton. So he's been very effective against these opponents.
But his first in how long?
Well, in 5 tests. So he had back-to-back centuries in both innings at Old Trafford in the 3rd test against West Indies last year. Then 3 low-scoring tests against Pakistan, 2 in the winter against India, in which he totaled just 78 runs in 8 innings.
Yeah. So it's due a score. It was all a bit strange the winter for him, wasn't it? He stayed at home, obviously waiting for his wife to give birth. And never really had the preparation, therefore, did he, to come back and play?
No, I've been really impressed with him today. I thought from quite early in the innings, he just, you can see about, we saw yesterday with Devon Cumming, you could see he had a real focus and a real game plan about the way he was going to go about his business. And I thought that about Rory Burns today. He just looked like he had a method very early on. He had nice balance. He played a shot through straight mid-wicket, which is always a good sign. A ball that kind of could easily have gone square of the wicket on the onside. When it was worth playing across the pad, he hit it through straight mid-wicket off Jameson earlier. I thought, his balance is good. It's always a good sign. Spin.
Yeah, we've got Mitchell Santner.
There's a little bit outside the left-hander's off stump. You can just see the follow-through marks. It's just got the cameras on those follow-through marks now. I wouldn't say they're big, but there's a little bit there for him.
Yep, so they've got a short leg there, just in case the ball does bounce out of that, take the edge of the bat, and also a slip. Santner bowling his left arm spin, floats his first one up outside the off stump, and Burns plays it to short mid-wicket. It's a man out deep on the leg side and also on the offside. Square of the wicket. Mid-on and mid-off are both up, as you'd expect. A cover and mid-wicket. Santner goes creeping in and bowls, and Burns can work that into the leg side, but only as far as forward short leg. And it's 89 for 2. Rather curious action, Santner. He's quite a tall man, dark-haired. Starts well, but then the right arm, the leading arm, just completely collapses and he floats the ball. Oh, that did spin out of the rough. It beat the keeper. And that's run away for a bye. Wow, that really did go. So absolutely what you were saying there, and that rough patch outside the off stump.
Oh, that spun sharply. England going with no spinner. It actually helped them losing the toss. On day one, they didn't really need much of a spinner. It was all about the seamer today. Obviously, it did a little bit more through the air off the seam. Whereas now those football, I do think that Santner's going to have an opportunity in this Test match to pick up a few.
Do you think? I know it's the Leach thing's kind of a bit old hat now, but do you think the number of left-handers in the New Zealand side might have had any influence in that at all?
Yeah, maybe.
Because they're pretty well stocked, aren't they? Santner again bowls, and this time Root, who hasn't got like rough stuff to cope with outside his off stump, can play that away into the offside.
But again, you'd look at it the other way, that there's going to be so much rough outside the left-hander's off stump that a left-arm spinner will have plenty to aim into.
Santner creeps in, bowls, Root drives. A real power in that, and Williamson at mid-off quickly gets to work on the ball.
I think I played in the last Test match here, it was, that England didn't pick a spinner. 2002. Was that West Indies?
Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka.
They made 5.
Yeah, that was a good,
That was that horrendous match.
That was a good decision.
I remember that one so well. Here's Santner bowling and just pushed away down to backward point. It was a game that should have ended in 3 days. And went on to the
I think did I get 100 in that game?
the bitter end.
No, I think that was the 2006 game when Sri Lanka batted days for a draw.
Sorry, I got the wrong year.
2002, Sri Lanka got on top, and then England managed to get a draw.
Hoggard broke down. Also, I think it's Hoggard broke down in that game I was referring to. I think we were left with virtually no bowlers.
I think Flintop bowled 50 overs.
He did.
He was captain.
They were both.
He was captain.
They bowled for about 3 days.
Yeah. Sri Lanka did that to us quite a few times.
Yeah.
I remember in Colombo, I think it was Stuart Broad's debut actually. Seemed to be out there for about 3 days.
Yes, that was red hot too.
The 2002 game when England didn't pick a spinner, Sri Lanka 555 for 8 declared. Marvin Atapattu made 185.
When you said, did I not bowl a couple of overs?
I think yes, you did. You bowled 14 overs, none for 35.
Yeah,
tidy.
that was tidy.
Very tidy.
Century for Mahela Joe Wagner as well. Atapattu famously began his Test career in 3 Tests spread over 6 years, scored a total of 1 run in 6 innings. That's hope for everyone. Went on to make 6 Test double hundreds. England 275 all out, and then following on 529 for 5 declared, hundreds for Vaughan and Butcher, and runs for everyone else who batted as well.
I think Atapattu scored a double hundred at Gaul when we were locked out of the ground. Didn't he? I think I covered most of it from the fort. Amongst the iguanas and the monks. It was quite a steady innings from
The mullet's back on.
The mullet is. The Grand Dame shuffling in from the far end, bowls down the leg side. Burns tries to work it for runs, but misses. And it's collected by Watling, moving down the leg side, 90 for 2.
The clouds have just rolled in a bit, I guess.
Well, that's presumably ahead of tomorrow, but they've talked about the possibility of some light rain here tomorrow. Grand Dame bowling, and that's worked away nicely by Burns. He's found the gap again. Chase for the fielder from square leg out towards the deep mid-wicket boundary. Come back for 2. Don't forget the highlights tonight on BBC 2, 7 o'clock. If you can't wait till then, well, you'll find video clips of much of the action on the BBC Sport website or the app. 92 for 2. Burns on 55. The Grand Dame bowls to him, plays that very late. So picked up by Santner, trotting in from point. Root to 29. I hope his finger's okay. He's batted all right, but he got a horrible one from the Grand Dame bowling from the other end that reared off a length. Physio was called for. There was lots of prodding about and so on, but
He was hitting the nets, wasn't he?
He was.
2 days before the game.
De Grand Homme over the wicket, bowls, and Burns patiently allows that to go through to Watling. Again, took that very low down.
I don't know Colin de Grand Homme, but do you think he wakes up and thinks, yeah, I look cool? Or is it? Do you think he's like one of the like real characters? And he says, I'm just doing it for a bit of a.
I think you should ask him, because
I'd like to ask him.
as you'll discover, he's a man of very few words.
Right.
It becomes again shortish run, bowls outside the off stump. I used to play with his father in Zimbabwe. Yes, yeah, he was.
If there was ever a
cricketer.
name that I think is a name that you would expect to have a mullet, I think it is Colin.
I thought you said de Grand Homme.
No, Colin.
Oh, okay.
You know, if you said Colin, I would put a mullet with a Colin.
I'll just see if I can get the stats on that, Michael.
I think this is possibly more than a mullet. It's a sort of 70s footballer's look, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Frank Worthington, he'd have had one of these.
John Walk.
Here he comes again. Bowls nice and straight, and Burns shuffles forward. The ball trickles away into the offside. It's the end of the over.
I used to live about 3 doors away from Frank Worthington.
Did you?
Yeah, Lumber Lane in Worsley.
Bit of a legend, he was.
Yeah, fortunately he died recently.
He did. Yeah,
We used to wear some gear.
He did.
He used to always have a flash car outside his drive.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, he was a legend at Filbert Street. 92 for 2. Santner's going to continue. He's only bowled 1 over. Someone's come on the pitch. They're wearing one of those blue bibs. He's trotting off. There's a deep square leg. And rather drifting. I think the match referee really ought to have a bit of a word, because 18 overs scheduled to be bowled today. England failed to bowl 4 yesterday on a flawless day. New Zealand will claim an over back, no doubt, for the treatment to Root, for instance. So it's not simply a question of reading what's on the board. Now Santner will bowl round the wicket. There's a short leg and a slip for Root, who comes forward, smothering any spin there might be. The ball trickles away for Southey to collect at backward point.
Yeah, he's probably going to try and hope that he can just trap Joe Root on that front foot, try and skim one, just get it to go just slightly up the slope.
He goes again from round the wicket, and Root allows that to spin past him and into Watling's gloves.
I think the way that Joe Root's played is a lesson to Zach Crawley. You know, Zach Crawley quite consistently in the winter, and now here today has played a really high-risk shot early in an innings.
Now he sweeps this one, dragging it away into the leg side, as you know from the winter. A very strong sweeper. Want the second, the throw's on the way, and Watling, well, he missed the stumps, but I think Root was home. But it was one of those where, when the ball was released from the fielder's hand, it looked dangerous. But it hit the square, the green grass, quite lush, and I think it slowed it down quite a bit. But that was a bit of a chancy second.
Yeah, it was a bit wide, wasn't it?
Santner again. Oh my word! Well, he's beamed him. That was a high full toss. It had been called a no ball by the umpire. And Root's got it away with a horizontal bat. He sort of guided it really past Slip, who was also beginning to panic, I think. It just completely slipped, and he went flat straight at Root, who's got a smile on his face. It must have slipped, but he gets a warning for that. And umpire Kettlebury's raising his finger, saying, I can't have any of that. But it was was it an arm ball, was it?
It was an attempted arm ball.
Yeah. And he comes again, bowls a bit shorter. Root could work it into the leg side. And the difference in length between the previous ball and that one must have been about 10 yards, I think.
Yeah, I was just mentioning Zach Crawley. I think it's worth him. You know, I see him now. He's sat next to Graham Thorpe. You know, I think it's worth him now. He's played a few Test matches. He's got that tremendous double century. But without that, his average would be 20. And I think if he analyses how he keeps getting out, it's by playing high risk cricket shots. I think as a number 3 in Test match cricket, I think you have to understand that it's very rare that you go out there and play pure strokes from early in innings on a regular basis.
Santner again bowls Burns down the pitch a couple of paces, flicks that to mid-wicket, and he'll pick up a single once more. 99 for 2.
A lot of the time in Test match cricket, even like Tendulkar and Lara, that very rarely did they go out there and just start flowing from ball one or from early in an innings. You've just got to earn the right. Joe Root today has proven again that you've just got to be very patient, give yourself a chance.
Santner too short, Root back, he loves that shot. There's no one who plays that, or a back cut, Australians would call that, better than Joe Root in the game at the moment. He very rarely misses out. And he's got 4 more to take England to 103 for 2. Commentary continues on 5 Live Sports Extra, digital radio, online or via the BBC Sounds app. But it's time on Radio 4 Long Wave for the shipping forecast.
Yeah, that's not a great over from Santner. Just a nice gift to finish the over, put away beautifully from Joe Root. Yeah, so I think it's a fine balance when you're talking to young players, because you don't want them to take, the mindset of just being defensive out to the middle, but it's that fine balance of realising that at this level you can't be gifting the opposition some cheap wickets. You go back to the windows a couple of times when he danced down to left-arm spinners early and was caught mid-off. I just think he's too good a player just to give the opposing team such an easy dismissal. The wide, full-length delivery from Southey today, he doesn't need to be going chasing that so early.
De Grandhomme's on his way. Burns plays a forward defensive stroke to the first ball of this over. Good length round about the off stump. Played into the offside. Just looking at tomorrow's forecast. It depends again, really, which forecast you believe. But
which one do you believe?
Well, I tend to believe the one that I want to believe.
Okay, and which one are you wanting to believe?
At the moment, I want to believe the BBC weather one, because it's saying it's only at a 45% chance around about midday of some light precipitation. De Grandhomme bowls outside the off stump, but there's no stroke.
Well, that's why the next half an hour of cricket is so big in the Test match, because England really need to arrive tomorrow 2 wickets down, because it could be a day where the ball swings even more than it has done today. With the clouds around and might be a little bit on-off, it could be a good day to bowl, so you certainly won't want to be arriving tomorrow 4 down.
And there's the next one, and that's outside the off stump. No stroke from De Grandhomme. Got so many of these apps. The trouble is, you've got so many of these apps in the end that, so you do go for the one that gives you a forecast that you want to see, really. Weather Nerd. Have you got that one?
What does the nerd
it's
say?
It's quite a pretty one. It says again, there's a chance of precipitation. De Grandhomme bowls outside the off stump. And there's no stroke. 6 degrees cooler than today, with a 76% chance of rain, it says, but it's decreasing as the day goes on.
Okay, so in the afternoon it looks quite nice.
Yeah.
Maybe a shower or two from around 9 till 12ish. Yeah, so you can add on a bit more time, so you miss too much under the overs.
De Grandhomme bowls outside the off stump. No stroke from the patient Burns. 56 not out. He's faced 110 balls now.
How many have you got?
A lot.
So you've got the Weather Nerd, you've got the BBC. What else have you got?
Well, there's more on my phone than on this, but the rain today, aero weather, that gives you the airports.
I think he's got a slight issue.
It's interesting the weather, though, isn't it?
Not really.
Oh, it is. Well, you've just asked me, is it going to rain tomorrow? So I'm trying to tell you. De Grandhomme again on his way, bowls. Oh, that does beat him. Moving just down the slope. And a nice delivery. 103 for 2. Welcome back to our long wave listeners. You haven't missed very much, really, apart from discussion about tomorrow's weather, which we'll have for you, of course, when we go on air. But there might be a chance of some light rain round about lunchtime tomorrow. If you're coming to Lords, bring a brolly, I think is the bottom line. Route 38, Burns 56. Half an hour play remains. Michael, some thoughts from you. And then Simon Mann's coming in here.
Oh, the pedalos are on the screen, just over the back of Regent's Park. There's plenty out there. Lovely afternoon for it. That last ball was a reminder. It's the kind of wicket I've really enjoyed it as a Test match pitch, because it's just offering a little bit for everyone. If you play nicely and you show determination and application like Devon Conway, Joe Root and Rory Burns have done, well, there are runs out there. But you think you can just go out there and play your shots and play freely, and there's an opportunity for the bowler. And that last ball from De Grandhomme just zipped down the slope, just a hint of seam movement. It's just a reminder to Rory Burns that you can't just go out of your box, stay in your little shell, keep playing the same way.
Half an hour to go. Here's Santner bowling to Root, who plays a low pull with some venom out towards deep square leg. And Conway, the man of the day, really. Fields sends in the return with 200 earlier. 200 out of 378. And it's 104 for 2. Root goes to 39.
Well, a different challenge for England against New Zealand spinner Mitchell Santner today compared to what they faced in the winter in India, facing Ravichandran Ashwin, one of the great spinners of all time, and Axar Patel on helpful pitches.
Santner bowls to Burns. Burns sweeps. And it's gone out towards deep back with square leg. There was a bit of shouting going on out there for a moment. I lost the flight of the ball. Presumably it was in the air for a while. And the throw from Jameson nearly takes out Burns, who had to duck. And the ball went to cover where it was backed up. Root, rather. He was at the striker's end. One more to the total, 105 for 2.
Santner's been a successful containing bowler for New Zealand in white ball cricket, but has struggled in red ball cricket, 41 wickets at average 44 in his test career, and averages 46 in first class cricket. Never taken a first class fifer.
Santner bowls and spins one past the outside edge. Root's groping back there. That did turn.
So he'll be looking to improve on those statistics with balls such as that in his last 14 tests,
just like
before this one, averaging just 17 wickets, average 61.
That was a good ball from Santner.
Beauty.
Yeah, you want to see that as a spinner on the second day of a test match if you've got 380 in the bank.
Unless you're the spinner that's been left out.
Yeah.
Well, no, if you're the spinner who's been left out, you want to see that and say, well, I told you so.
Yeah. Santner bowls to Root, very full, and Root turns it along the ground into the hands of the short leg fielder. And there's no run. 105 for 2. We have seen one or two that have turned in this test match. It's every now and again.
Yeah.
But you feel it, by the fifth day.
There'll be some rough too.
Well, yeah, there must be something there for the spinners, both rough and off the pitch. Root goes back, forces that square with the wicket on the offside, scampers through for a single, 106 for 2. Now Root moves into the 40s.
But it is just the odd one, to be fair. We saw Root bowl one that beat the outside edge, didn't we, from the pavilion end. And a couple of turns. One turn to Burns, didn't it? Probably from the footholds to early on in this spell, it turned from outside off stump. But that's allowed to happen. We're not in Ahmedabad just yet.
Santner into Burns, who shuffles down the pitch and clips this away past de Grandhomme, short mid-wicket, and it's backed up behind him by a deepish mid-wicket, and there's no run. 106 for 2 is the score, so it's 6:05. We're into the time they add on. They're supposed to be finished by now, and there's still 15 overs left in the day's play. Of course, we won't get all of those.
Hard to establish quite who's to blame, really, because obviously both sides have been bowling today.
Probably both sides, then.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah. All 22 of them.
Umpires and administrators as well, perhaps, going back 40 years.
I mean, that's more than an hour's cricket, really, and the way they bowl the overs these days.
He's just warming up for his recording tonight, I think. It's getting a bit more satirical down the statistician's end.
Oh, it's Thursday night, is it? News quiz recording night, is it?
Yes, I'm recording in the press box at 8 o'clock tonight.
How are you?
Broadcast. I don't know if I'm allowed to say we don't actually broadcast it live, but yes.
Can we listen and heckle from the back of the box?
Please don't do that.
You're recording from here?
Yes.
Here's de Grandhomme from the pavilion end, bowls outside the off stump. Root leans forward and lets that go through.
Hang on a minute.
To Watling.
Do you mean to tell me that the whole team of the news quiz is pandering to Zoltzman's whereabouts? Are they all going to be here?
He is the main man now. He's the presenter.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah.
No, we all do it on a Zoom call.
Oh, of course,
So,
yeah. All right, okay. Well, it's amazing how intimate it seems.
De Grandhomme to Root. Root opens the face, runs it away towards backward point. There is no run. Well, one thing that concerns me, though, Andy, is that your
just the one.
Your attention today has been very much on the cricket, and yesterday as well. Have you been keeping across all the news?
Well, I kept across the news last night after play and this morning after getting up early.
Well, all sorts of things must have been going on today. De Grand home to Root outside the off stump. Root lets it go. Taken by Watling. 77 miles an hour from the big DG there. It is gentle, well, for test match cricket anyway.
Yeah.
Sort of gentle, medium pace. Hint of swing. Overcast now at Lords. The lights aren't on yet. De Grand home moves in and bowls. Oh, and that one bounces a bit. Or it seems to bounce a bit. That's the way Root plays it. Takes one hand off the bat. He has got that bruised right hand.
I don't think Root likes facing Grandhomme, though. We were talking about the World Cup earlier on, and he becalmed him there. And even in the first spell he had, Root was kept trapped at his end for an awful long time without scoring.
Did that one bounce a bit more than we expected?
I think so. The way
he actually played it pretty well, but he took one hand off the bat, presumably because it's quite sore. Root in behind that delivery from De Grandhomme, that's right on target. He plays that to Conway's fielding the covers, and there's no run. This is De Grandhomme's 9th over, and he's bowled 2 maidens. He's gone for 12 so far. He's dried things up without being overly threatening. I mean, you feel his job in this side is not necessarily to come out and take a fifer.
No, it's
but
to
it's a
block and end up and probe away and add a bit of pressure to it.
Try and pick up a wicket or two. Help his captain out and his teammates. De Grandhomme bowls, Roots forward, playing that to point. There's no run. It's the end of an over. That was 77 miles an hour, and it was right on target. And if it were delivered in a T20 match, that delivery, it would have been probably hoiked over mid-wicket or smashed over extra cover. But Root respecting it and playing it way into the offside. 106 for 2 at the end of the over. Root 40, Burns 57. So England are still 272 runs behind, but they were in a perilous position at 18 for 2, and these two have helped them recover. They've given them some hope for tomorrow, really. And
it's beautifully poised, actually, at the moment, and the game could go either way. We could have an interesting last 20 minutes. We've got Wagner, who opted for his short of a length tactic, just for a few overs, but was actually attacked quite well by Burns in particular, who took out the pull shot. And looking at the field now, it looks like he's setting himself to bowl a fuller length. No doubt there'll be the odd surprise bouncer, but not quite so many.
Well, there are 2 men back, deep square and fine leg, but 2 slips in the gully as well, and 3 saving, 1 on the offside. And the first ball is full from Wagner, and it's played gently by Burns up towards mid-off. Picks out New Zealand's captain Williamson, and there is no run. Wagner marches back to his mark, unlike Tim Southey, who walks very slowly back. There's a real purpose in the way Wagner goes about his bowling, gets back to his mark and then hustles in, and he's back to his mark now, and he's running in from the nursery end to bowl to Rory Burns outside the off stump. Burns allows it to go through. There was earlier from Wagner, there's a hint of in swing, but he is bowling at under 80 miles an hour as well. Trent Boult missing from this test match for New Zealand. Supposed to be arriving tomorrow. We don't think he's going to play in the second test, but get him ready for the World Test Championship final, and then they'll have a decision to make about who they leave out, whether it's De Grandhomme or Santner. Here is Wagner bowling. He squares Burns up there, thickish outside edge. It's half stopped in the gully, and they pinch a single. It was deflected into a bit of space on the offside. That was good running. Burns gets 1 more to take him to 58, and England to 107 for 2. So Crawley out for 2, Sibley for 0, 4 for 1, 18 for 2, 1 for Jameson and 1 for Southey. Crawley's had a long time to sit and watch these two put together their partnership after his loose shot, I think it's fair to say. A big drive at one and a wafty drive, caught behind. This is Wagner bowling and Root turning it away to forward square leg, and there's no run. Here's a question for you, Andy. I mentioned earlier that Bracey took his first catch as England wicket-keeper. I might have said at the time his first dismissal for England. But someone pointed out on Twitter that he might have taken a catch as a sub-fielder last season at short leg in one of the Test matches. So his
Just what he needs.
His first catch as a wicket keeper.
I mean, he's got a busy night, and now he's got to go scurrying around.
He's not off duty till 6:30. Outside the off stump from Wagner, guided away by Root, stopped on the dive in the covers, and they again get a single. As Jameson had to go away to his right hand side. And while he was down there, they got up and down. The two batsmen. 108 for 2 with that single to Root. He's on to 41. I think it might have happened at Southampton in the Pakistan Test match there. So that might narrow it down a bit. Wagner bowls, and again he's just getting a bit of a way swing to the left-hander, in swing to the right-hander. It squared Burns up. He played it back down the pitch, and Wagner picked up, and there's no run. So it might well have happened in the final test of the summer, the one Crawley made 267 in. There was a sub-fielder catch. Just to clear that up.
It's very important to Bristolians.
Well, no, I said this was Brace's first dismissal in Test cricket, and someone said, didn't he take a catch at short leg as a sub-fielder? And I just wanted to check that.
He did, off the bowling of Root.
Oh, very good.
Asad Shafiq. Just before the new ball became due, before everyone walked off.
There we go. So his second dismissal in Test cricket.
But in the stats, doesn't count if you're a sub.
Right.
Subs are very marginalised.
But when you see his Test record, it usually gives you catches, doesn't it?
Yeah, but it won't include a catch as a sub in your Test stats.
Because he wasn't playing in the game, presumably.
Oh, I see.
Jameson, Southey rather, bowling from the nursery end. He's replaced de Grandhomme, and Root turns his first ball down to fine leg. Wagner's there. They're through for a single. And Root goes to 42. And England to 109 for 2. Where are we in this game at the moment, Victor? Is the draw the most likely result? Or is it far too early to say that? The way cricket is played these days, Test cricket, as long as the weather holds for most of the time.
Well, the draw's faded, hasn't it, compared to last night? We've had 9 wickets falling today. So the game has moved on. Without weather, I don't think the draw's the favourite at the moment. And there is a bit of rain abound tomorrow, but hopefully not too much, and it may not be at all. So we're on target for a result at the moment, I think.
Short extra cover in for Burns facing Southey. Burns nearly finds him. De Grandhomme's there, but gets it to De Grandhomme's right-hand side. Goes to square cover, no run.
It has the makings of a very good sort of slow-burning Test match that climaxes on Sunday.
At 5 to 7.
Just after the key trains west have left.
When is the last train?
I don't know. But yeah, no, I mean, it has all the makings at the moment. If you get a Test match, one side gets 380 and the other gets 350 or something like that, you're on.
Burns drives, and I thought I heard a nick there, but it was collected low down by Watling away to his left. 109 for 2. I remember there was a race against time at the end of the Bob Willis Trophy final for you to get your train.
I know. Yeah.
I don't know if you.
I got it. Don't worry.
Did you? We had to hold up all the traffic. People were beeping me from behind. I dropped you off.
It was the only time I sweated up during that 5 days.
Well, it was
freezing, wasn't it?
Yeah. We were over in the tavern stand boxes because this has been all redeveloped. This area of the ground, the new Compton Edrich stand, and here's Southey bowling, and Burns lets that one go. Actually, that ball before, it bounced in front of Watling, so there might well have been an edge, but it dropped well in front of him. 109 for 2. We had to have the box window open as well because of the COVID regulations.
Yeah, it was
late September.
Environmentally a very unsound performance by the TMS lot, because we had the heater on at full volume and the window had to be wide open as well. Yeah. But it was incredibly cold. It was amazing the standard of cricket in that match, given that it was freezing, as it can be at the end of September, beginning of October.
Southey round the wicket to Burns, who drives and misses past the outside edge. Burns knows that he made a mistake there and he's got away with it. So taps the bat onto the crease and then walks down to do some guarding, just to compose himself, whatever. admonish himself.
He's a tempter, it seems, sadly. He knows. I'm sure he knows what he's doing. It's almost a half volley. It feels like it's drivable, but it's not quite there. And obviously Crawley got the nick. Looked terrible. Wouldn't have looked great there if Burns had nicked that one. Except that he's got 58 to his name.
He settles 2 slips in the gully and a short extra cover in. Southey bowls very wide, again, trying to tempt him. Didn't quite get it right there, and it was easy for Burns to ignore. Through to Watling, end of the over. Southey's bowled 9 overs, 2 maidens, 1 for 17. England 109 for 2 in reply to New Zealand's 378 all out, with Burns on 58 and Root on 42. Is the Bob Willis Trophy final in October this year?
Well,
right? Early October?
It's right at about the same time. It's right at the end of September. May creep into October. It'll be interesting to think whether we think it's a good idea.
Right, the final day will be the first day of October.
Okay.
Yeah, Monday the 27th.
As far as I understand, the winners of the county championship will be the people who finish at the top of Division 1.
Yeah. Here's
And
Wagner.
this will be a separate.
Bowls to Root, full outside the off stump. I mean, it was drivable, that delivery, but Root decided not to bother. Allowed it to go through to Watling.
So this will be a separate trophy for presumably therefore for the top 2 teams. Now, I'm not so. It was great last year to have that focus of the Bob Willis Trophy. I'm not sure I'm quite so keen on, a playoff for the last 2 in October.
Yeah.
At least there might be some people watching, I guess, if we get some sunshine.
Wagner bowls again, full outside the off stump. Again, that drift in. At Root, not interested. It was wide enough for him to let it go by. Collected by Watling. 109 for 2. It's easy to forget, of course, that game was settled on first innings lead, wasn't it?
Yeah. But for last year, that was a one-off. I thought it was certainly a worthwhile exercise and worked quite well, apart from the temperature and the fact that no one here at all.
Wagner bowls. That one is straight this time. Root does have to play, and he turns it away into the onside towards de Grandhomme. Wagner wanted to engage Root there, but Root turned his back and walked away.
Yeah, just a flicker of movement in.
There is, yeah.
But going back to that, what impressed me most was the intensity of the cricket from both Essex and Somerset in Arctic conditions.
And teams around the country battling away for places in the top division in September at the moment. Here's Wagner bowling outside the off stump to Root, who ignores it, and there's ball-by-ball commentary on every championship match via the BBC Sport website. Root 42. So Wagner's bowling in that channel now. You can see what he's trying to do. And Root trying to resist it. We've got 3 slips in, a staggered slip. There are gaps between wicketkeeper and first, and second and third. Wagner bustles in and bowls to Root across him. Root leans forward and lets it go. And Wagner stands and looks at him for a moment. And I'd say Root engages this time, but he looks back up the pitch because he wanted to do some gardening.
It's a quick look from the bowler, then he marches back in a way that we seldom see in Test cricket, actually.
Well, if Wagner bowled all day, you think that the over rate would be spot on.
Yeah.
But he's waiting to bowl now. Look,
he's waiting for the ball to be given
Williamson
to him.
is having a chat with Latham at cover and shining it, and Wagner wants to hustle in and bowl. He goes in now to bowl to Root, and Root is back playing defensively into the onside. Again, Wagner wants to engage. He walks back looking at the bowler, looking at the batsman, I should say. Root is off to a change of gloves or something. And that's the end of Wagner's over. Root 42. Burns is there on 58. It's 109 for 2. We've got just over 10 minutes to go until the close of play, and Daniel Norcross will take you there along with Victor.
Yeah, well, a defensive shot from Root, and he played it right down onto his toe, and then he skipped around in some pain for a while, which is an odd way. But he plays like Williamson. He plays very late, so the ball just lands beneath his feet, or on that occasion on top of his foot. It's been a good day so far for England, what was the score? 240 odd for 3
246.
overnight.
132 for 7 and 109 for 2.
Yeah, so far, England have fought back well today. And we have a match in the balance with much to savour.
Southey coming in from the pavilion end. The left-handed Burns, and Burns lets this go by outside the off-stump. It's too wide, doesn't interest him. 2 slips, gully. Cover point, a short extra. Colin de Grandhomme. Wide mid-off, straightish mid-on, mid-wicket and long leg. Has been a good day for England. It's been sort of quite a gripping day of Test cricket generally, actually. As I heard Jeremy Coney next door saying to Eleanor Aldroyd, this has the feeling of a slow burner.
He said that?
Yes, it is, a slow burner.
I just said that to him.
Did you? Great minds. Wide outside the off stump, low through to the keeper. They're going to get a bye. It was very low, and BJ Watling couldn't quite hold on to it. It slipped through his grasp. And they'll pick up a single, 110 for 2. And if you look at matches in the UAE, frequently you'll think, oh, the wicket's never falling here, and then it'll suddenly speed up, won't it, towards the end of the 4th day and the 5th day.
Yeah, and there's been a bit of uneven nothing to
foot marks
really
as well.
We're
getting some foot marks, and what with the left armour and Wagner bowling both over and round the wicket, we might see a bit more.
And in a decent cricket pitch, deteriorates.
Yeah.
That's what they're supposed to do.
Southey into Root. Root comes forward, head right over the ball, pushes into the offside. There's no run. He's on 42. I don't think he'll be eyeing his 50 this evening necessarily. We're likely to get, I think we might get 2.5 more overs in, which would mean that 8 overs would remain unbowled today. Along with, how many was it yesterday? Was it 6, Andy? 4?
4. And
So that's 10 overs missing.
Only 1 review yesterday, 2 reviews today.
We've had the sight of a lot of men in tabards coming on quite frequently, every now and then. Southey in, wide of the off stump, again keeps low. Poor old Watling does terrifically well to keep that, to take that. Bounced just in front of him. And he prevented a bye on this occasion. Just a reminder, we're looking for representatives from club sides to take part in a new Friday tea time Test match special quiz. We want to pit cricket clubs against each other in a, hopefully, a battle of cricket trivia. But I'm hoping.
Well, you're pretty good on cricket trivia.
Not bad.
And you like quizzes too. I think I once saw you on the telly in a quiz.
Yes, I think I lost that one. It was only Connect, I think. Yes. Southey in, and that's a full ball worked around his pads.
Well, I'm sure your teammates helped you lose it as well. It wasn't entirely your fault.
Yes, it was football journalist Jonathan Wilson and
Steve. I know, yes, I've met him too.
Yes, and a writer of cricket books that I had on me. We had who's written a lot for Wisden, does a lot of Wisden anthologies.
Who's that?
I was going to give you an opportunity to guess.
Okay. Anyway, it seems like a formidable
Robert
team.
Winder.
Oh, yes.
Lovely Robert.
Yeah. And you still didn't win with that colour.
I know. Well, we were up against the QI Elves, which was quite tricky. Forward in defence comes Root, pushes into the offside. Field at point, there's no run. They had a lot of trivia up their sleeve.
And your command of cricket trivia didn't see you through on Only Connect, really.
Didn't come up, unfortunately. 110 for 2 at the end of the over. Burns 58. Route 42. But if you want to be involved in
that
this
sounds
quiz,
quite good. That's quite a new idea. It's an innovation.
It's a great innovation. Email us at tms@bbc.co.uk. That's tms@bbc.co.uk, and we will be putting you to the test. Hopefully it will become acrimonious. Hopefully we will create whole new rivalries.
We need a sort of John Holder figure to referee this thing.
I think are you up for a job? I mean, you are very much Pontius Marx, aren't you?
Pontius. I don't think I can take that as a compliment, really.
No, you're an even-handed man, is what I'm saying. An even-handed man. I'm not sort of thinking about the more unfortunate historical
we have
connotations. Wagner into the left-handed Burns, full-length delivery, which is pushed up to mid-off. There's no run.
Seems we have an experienced quizmaster in our team.
Oh, Andy.
Well, that's what it, notionally.
Yes.
Notionally, he gives out the score.
Yes.
I've learned him.
News quiz boy.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
And also,
you'll be recording that shortly,
also,
won't
as
you?
he demonstrates hour after hour, a fount of cricket trivia.
Absolutely. Wagner in, forward comes Burns. Well, just jabs a little bit between bat and pad and rolls out into the offside. Santner does the fielding at extra cover. There's no run. I think it could be great fun, this quiz.
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
get involved.
When is it? Friday lunchtime. Tea
Friday
time.
lunchtime, yes. It'll be, the questions have a variety of difficulty.
You know that.
Yes.
Have you set them?
Some of them. Oh. Yes. So
They will be trivial then, won't they?
Some will be quite easy. Some of them will be a little bit more difficult. We're going to separate the wheat from the chaff. Wagner in, 2 slips in a gully. Oh, that's a brilliant lead from Burns. By brilliant, I mean very tight to off stump. Wagner earlier today adopted, just after drinks actually, about 20 past 5, adopted a short ball barrage, and it didn't work for him. He went for 15 runs in an over, albeit included a couple of no balls. He tried it for another over, and now as the clouds have come in, actually, it's a little bit more sultry, and he's just getting it a bit fuller, and the ball's just talking a little bit more here. Point extra mid off 2 slips gully, that's the offside field. He's in again, and Burns drives into the offside, finds a bit of space, and picks up a single, moves to 59. It brings the dreaded Nelson, 111 for 2 if you're at home, getting those feet off the sofa or chair or bed or something to Richie Benno. They get to name everything you might be sitting on. And he used to have a habit of doing that, didn't you? And so, we used to go down to Canterbury and be on the train there and practicing leg spin with a Satsuma or Clementine or Kumquat, or sort of run through every type of small orange mostly. Wagner's in, and played and missed that by Root. That one going across the angle. It's just a bit testing here for Burns and Root as they look to see out the day's play. They've done so well after the loss of those 2 wickets. Sibley, who will be disappointed at the way he played the ball with only half his bat and was judged LBW, a very tight decision. And then Crawley will perhaps be even more disappointed with his shot. It was wide outside the off stump. He went after it, got a thin edge through to Watling. And at that stage, England were in bother. But Burns and Root have turned things round. They're 111 for 2. 2 slips and a gully in for the right-hander. And Root, is beaten again by one that whistles past his outside edge. I think he might just have taken the bat inside the line. I don't know. It's a bit short.
I don't know he did, but he has the infuriating habit, Root, of playing and missing. I think he played and missed there. And then he smiles almost angelically at the bowler, which doesn't cheer him up a great deal.
How would Dennis Lilly have reacted to that?
I think he'd had a word, probably.
111 for 2 at the end of the over. We're going to have one more today.
But Dennis Lilly was not a Kiwi.
No. Well, I mean, they've got a bit of spike themselves, haven't they? I mean, there's this idea that all the Kiwis
no,
are
I'm not
just
saying
sort of
that,
but
they don't really. They have, under recent captains, they haven't made a point of not pointlessly going in for, sledging. I think, and all credit to them. Doesn't mean to say they're absolutely silent out there.
No, so maybe there'll be some barbed comments, I would think.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't want to absolute silence out there.
Southey round the wicket to Burns, who gets turned round a bit by this. It's slightly a bit of a leading edge as the ball rolls up to mid-off. There's no run. Andy, I'm sorry, I saw you with microphone.
Well, the total over count for today will be 79.2 overs.
Because of the change between innings.
So they, for some reason, deduct 2 between innings and don't force the teams to bowl.
Do extra dismissals have a factor? Do they take account of the crossing?
Yeah, there's only been 9 wickets. I mean, in an average, but in a 5-day test, you should sort of be losing 8, shouldn't you? Southey in, and forward in defence comes Burns, pushes it to the offside. There's no run. Yesterday there were only 3 wickets.
Yeah, exactly. So the over 8 should have been quicker.
Should have been much quicker. But even today, really, I mean, 9 wickets and you're still 8 overs behind.
I mean, Root needs to bowl more. He's the best at. He's the bowls the quickest overs.
He does, yeah. He does, but it's been an absorbing day. Tomorrow, we're expecting there to be, as they say, a little bit of weather around. I'm looking at I wonder who we've got in the weather tomorrow. I hope we've got Thomas Schaffenacker. I want to talk to him about his wonderful lockdown hair. As Southey is in, wide of the off stump, left alone by Burns. So I think the morning session we may see the odd interruption, so we could well be going into overtime tomorrow, but it might make for conducive conditions for bowling in. That said, the ball will be 43 overs old, so
Who knows what's going to happen?
I know. I'm just rambling now, but I think he's
Really?
speculating idly. But you'll have the opportunity to do that at the close of play. Less idly, I'm sure.
Wow.
Time will tell. Southey round the wicket from the pavilion end to Burns. Burns again lets it go through to the keeper. There's only 2 balls remain in the day now. Just a reminder that Today at the Test is on BBC Two from 7 p.m. or will be available to watch at your leisure on the iPlayer, and the TMS podcast will be on BBC Sounds shortly. Today at the Test with likes of Isha Guhar, Jonathan Agnew. Most of the Test match special team, really. They're on it. You get to hear them and watch them. Ali Mitchell's on there as well.
I mean, it's
Craig
better
McMillan.
actually watching the cricket that they show, I think.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Yes. They can walk and chew gum. Full outside the off stump, through to the keeper. Head in his hands a little bit there from Southey. He thought that was a bit closer to off stump than I thought it was, and certainly than Burns thought it was. But Burns has judged the line very well. 1 ball remains in the day's play. Joe Root, barring a terrible accident, is going to be unbeaten overnight. Rory Burns has just 1 more ball to negotiate. Ollie Pope, if he had his pads on, can take them off. I don't know who would have been night watchman.
Mark
actually.
Wood, I think we decided.
Did you?
Probably. Yeah.
Right, not Robinson. Slightly better bat, but yeah.
Mark Wood, I think.
Yeah.
He'd have volunteered. He's that sort of chap.
Yes. Yes, he would. Here comes Southey. Into Burns. Last ball of the day, 2 wide. Didn't make him play, and Burns would be delighted with that. He's negotiated that last over. England will finish on 111 for 2 from 43 overs. This in reply to New Zealand's 378. Burns, unbeaten on 59 of that top 3. He's the one who's had a productive day. Root 42. Sibley departed for a duck. Crawley for just 2. England's top order woes continued, but then a fine unbeaten partnership for the 3rd wicket between Root and Burns. As Andy Zaltzman is he's out of here like a rat up a drain pipe. He's got to go and do the news quiz by the looks of it.
Well, he's got to find out what the news is.
Yes.
I asked the panellists what the news is, Vic.
I must listen in sometime.
It's very good. It's got excellent since Andy was on it.
I know.
That's me pitching for
I know that, really.
for a go. You know.
You'll never get there.
No, I know, but you know,
It's a miracle you are where you are.
All right. This is workplace bullying. 111 for 2. Burns 59, Root 42. England's deficit now 267, and an absorbing day. 3rd day is in prospect tomorrow.
Yeah, well, today was absorbing, but actually, I think the thing one would highlight today is, for the 2nd day in a row, Devon Conway, within an ace of carrying his bat, a double centurion out of a total of 378, and rather freakishly dismissed with a run out.
Yeah, no, so narrow,
so narrowly.
Marginal.
So within an ace of carrying his bat, but without that innings, New Zealand really would be struggling, actually, in hindsight. We felt they were in control at the start of the day, but 4 wickets fell in that first session. Mark Wood was rewarded in a part for all the effort he put in the first day, but he got his reward on the second with 3 quick wickets. Good pace, bit of help from the batsman here and there. Robinson, well, I mean, how would he have felt at 11 o'clock this morning, or even 6 o'clock this morning? Because I expect he was awake early. You'd think so, if he ever got to sleep.
Yes.
In fact, after a tumultuous 24 hours for him, actually what we saw on the field was, again, impressive. He got a catch, a straightforward catch, but, you know, given everything that's happened, nothing is straightforward. He caught it. And then at the other end to Wood, he bowled a very good 8-over spell, got 1 more wicket, and, you know, looked the part of a Test quality bowler. So England, 4 wickets in that morning session, had a bit of a resistance, but mainly from Conway, who will be, you think, I mean, a really substantial player for quite a long time for New Zealand.
It didn't look like a flash in the pan.
No, it didn't.
Yeah.
He looks a quality player, well organised, beautiful timer. 200 on Test debut. I mean, we've all been
And
talking
he got
about
there. He got there with a 6. His last shot was a 6, actually, because he was run out the next over when he was at the non-striker's end. And as you say, he would have become the first man, would he not, to have carried his bat on debut on the first innings.